I'm Robbie Williams. I'm one of the biggest pop stars in the world. This is my story, but I'm not going to tell it in an ordinary way because I don't see myself how others see me.
For the next 2 hours, you're
got in? You're in that band?
I'm getting fucking famous! Shut up, you tits!
Ah, fuck off, Glenn!
Mother!
Friends, if you want to watch the emotional and powerful film Better Man, 2024, in English, then make sure to like this video. And if you're visiting our channel for the very first time, don't forget to subscribe to Facts and Review for more exciting content. In today's video, we're going to talk about one of the most anticipated biographical musicals of the year, Better Man, 2024. We'll cover everything you need to know about this film, what it's about, where to watch it, and all the fascinating facts related to the movie. I'll also share complete details about which OTT platform or satellite channel will be streaming Better Man, so you won't miss out on watching it. Along with that, we'll dive deep into the film's technical department, music composition, pre-production journey, filming process, and post-production details. We'll also talk about the film's overall budget, its box office performance, and how the movie has been received by critics and audiences. And yes, I'll also give you a short review of the film's story. In addition, we'll explore the interesting facts about the making of this film, its storyline, full star cast, the lead performances, and which actor has played which character. So friends, I request you to please watch this video till the very end for the complete information. So, without any delay, let's begin the video. Better Man, 2024, Plot and Narrative Analysis. Better Man, 2024, is a deeply personal and emotionally resonant biographical musical drama that explores the tumultuous life and extraordinary career of British-Australian singer Robbie Williams. Directed by Michael Gracey, known for The Greatest Showman, the film blends conventional narrative elements with musical sequences and emotional introspection, offering a semi-fictionalized, stylized retelling of Williams' rise to fame, internal battles, and pursuit of redemption. Narrative structure and style. The story follows a semi-linear structure but creatively employs flashbacks, musical fantasy sequences, and inner dialogues to portray Robbie's emotional state and psychological struggles. While the narrative is rooted in real events, it is not a straightforward biography. It often shifts between past and present, blending reality with dramatized inner experiences, especially during musical performances. Beginning, from stardom to struggle. The film opens with a present-day Robbie Williams reflecting on his journey, setting a nostalgic yet raw tone. The audience is then taken back to his teenage years, where his entry into the boy band Take That becomes the first major turning point. The excitement of sudden fame is juxtaposed with the growing pressure of maintaining a public image and the personal insecurities it creates. Broken heart middle, conflict, breakdown, and isolation. The central conflict arises from Robbie's increasing struggle with anxiety, addiction, and identity. His departure from Take That marks a pivotal emotional shift, where his attempts to launch a solo career are clouded by self-doubt and media scrutiny. This portion of the narrative dives deep into his internal conflict, balancing fame with personal peace. The film doesn't shy away from portraying his mental health battles, self-destructive tendencies, and moments of relapse, all while using stylized musical sequences to represent his psychological state. Musical numbers aren't just performances. They act as emotional expressions, sometimes surreal and symbolic, offering insight into what Robbie can't express verbally. These scenes serve to push the narrative forward and reveal inner emotional truths. Sunrise End, Redemption and Acceptance. The final act of the film focuses on healing and reconciliation, both with his past and with himself. As Robbie becomes a husband and father, he learns to find meaning beyond fame. His reunion with Take That, which happened in real life, and moments of vulnerability bring the story full circle. The closing scenes don't declare a perfect happy ending but rather a hard-earned peace, showing a man who has accepted his flaws and continues to fight for his mental health and happiness. Performing art's emotional and thematic impact. At its core, Better Man is a story about vulnerability, identity, and self-worth in a world obsessed with perfection and performance. It explores how fame can distort the self and how healing often requires confronting your darkest memories. The use of music as a narrative device elevates the story, making it both entertaining and intimate. The film balances emotional depth with vibrant spectacle, aiming to show not just what Robbie did, but what he felt, making the audience experience his highs and lows alongside him. White have a checkmark summary of key turning points. Joining Take That, rise to stardom. Leaving the band, beginning of personal downfall. Solo career launch, struggle for validation. Addiction and depression, deepest emotional valley. Recovery and family life, emotional resolution. Better Man, 2024, ultimately delivers a compelling and stylized journey through the life of one of pop's most complicated figures. The narrative avoids sensationalism, choosing instead to reflect on authenticity, emotion, and what it truly means to become a better man. Robbie Williams, a layered and vulnerable protagonist. At the heart of the film is Robbie Williams, portrayed with raw vulnerability and charisma. His character arc spans from a wide-eyed teen thrust into stardom to a troubled adult battling inner demons, and finally to a more grounded man seeking peace. 1. Early innocence and naivety. In the beginning, Robbie is portrayed as eager and uncertain, drawn to the glamour of pop stardom. His motivations are simple: acceptance, validation, and a desire to prove himself. But even during these early years, cracks begin to appear in his emotional foundation, particularly in his self-esteem and fear of rejection. 2. Struggle and internal conflict. As fame grows, so does his inner turmoil. The character's emotional layers deepen as we see his descent into anxiety, addiction, and loneliness. Robbie's behavior becomes more erratic, alienating those close to him. Yet the film never paints him as a villain. Instead, it reveals a man overwhelmed by the pressures of being in the spotlight while carrying emotional baggage from his childhood and strained relationships. Through stylized musical sequences and introspective moments, the audience sees how Robbie's public persona often masks private pain. His emotional journey is not linear. It's filled with setbacks, making his eventual growth all the more powerful. 3. Redemption and growth. The final phase of Robbie's arc showcases a man learning to accept himself, flaws and all. His relationships, particularly with his partner and family, ground him. He doesn't conquer his demons in the traditional sense, but begins to live alongside them with honesty and courage, which is a much more realistic portrayal of growth. Supporting characters, catalysts and mirrors. Though the story revolves around Robbie, several supporting characters serve as emotional anchors and mirrors to his transformation. Gary Barlow are Take That members. Robbie's bandmates represent both camaraderie and conflict. His rivalry with Gary Barlow is especially central. It serves as a source of both insecurity and inspiration. Their estranged relationship and eventual reconciliation act as key emotional beats in Robbie's journey towards self-understanding. Robbie's manager and industry figures. These characters symbolize the pressures of the music industry, often pushing him in directions that clash with his emotional needs. They highlight the tension between commercial success and personal well-being. Romantic partner or wife. His romantic relationships, especially with the woman who becomes his wife, offer a stabilizing presence. She is not simply a love interest, but someone who sees past the pop star image and challenges Robbie to confront his true self. Younger version of Robbie. A unique narrative device used in the film is having a younger version of Robbie, portrayed by a different actor, appear during key emotional moments. This duality adds depth, allowing adult Robbie to reflect on his younger self's dreams, disappointments, and innocence lost. It's a symbolic and powerful way to illustrate internal dialogue and emotional reckoning. Performing arts character arcs and relationship dynamics. Robbie grows from insecure and fame-driven to emotionally aware and self-accepting. Gary Barlow evolves from a rival to a figure of reconciliation and forgiveness. Romantic partner provides emotional clarity, helping Robbie move beyond his self-destructive tendencies. Industry figures represent external conflict and manipulation, fueling Robbie's emotional struggle. Inner child or young Robbie symbolizes memory, regret, and healing, guiding the protagonist toward introspection. Thematic impact of character development. The film's success lies in its refusal to idealize or demonize any character. Instead, it focuses on humanizing a pop icon, showing how public fame can clash with private pain. Each character's arc, whether subtle or dramatic, feeds into the central theme: the pursuit of becoming a better version of oneself. Rather than tying everything into a neat resolution, Better Man respects the ongoing nature of personal growth. It suggests that true transformation comes not from fame or success, but from understanding, vulnerability, and connection. White heavy checkmark conclusion. Better Man, 2024, presents a compelling character study, driven by strong performances and emotional complexity. The depth of its character development, especially Robbie's internal transformation and evolving relationships, adds authenticity and emotional power to the film. It is a story not just about a celebrity, but about a man wrestling with the person he is, the person he was, and the person he wants to be. Let me know if you want this condensed into a short script for a video, or translated into Urdu for subtitles or narration. Robbie Williams, a complex, evolving central character. Robbie Williams isn't just the protagonist of Better Man. He is the emotional heartbeat of the film. From the outset, his character is established as someone with immense natural talent but equally intense inner fragility. What makes Robbie's arc compelling is how layered and realistic it is, marked by personal contradictions, highs and lows, and an ongoing search for identity. Childhood roots of insecurity. Robbie's emotional complexity is rooted in his upbringing, a theme carefully woven through flashbacks and introspective sequences. His early experiences with family instability and a yearning for affection and affirmation plant the seeds of abandonment issues and low self-worth. These emotional scars manifest later as self-sabotage and a constant craving for audience validation. Fame is both dream and curse. When Robbie enters Take That, he's still a teenager, impressionable and overwhelmed. His early fame acts as both a dream fulfilled and a psychological trigger. The group's success brings Robbie into the limelight but simultaneously magnifies his insecurities. He begins to feel like the odd one out, less serious than Gary Barlow, less appreciated by management, more targeted by the press. This dynamic fosters his inner conflict. Who is Robbie beyond the stage persona? Pill descent into addiction and crisis. This period in the film marks a crucial psychological collapse. As his fame grows, so does his anxiety, leading to addiction, erratic behavior, and public breakdowns. But rather than sensationalize his struggles, the film frames them through a lens of empathy, showing the pressure of being a young man constantly performing for the world, while silently unraveling. His hallucinations, imagined conversations with his younger self, and surreal musical interludes act as symbolic expressions of his mental state, portraying how his inner child haunts his adult life. Sunrise Over Mountains turning point, self-reflection and redemption. Robbie doesn't suddenly become better. Instead, his growth is slow, painful, and filled with moments of regression. This makes his arc believable. Through therapy, love, fatherhood, and introspection, he begins to shift focus from external validation to internal peace. By the end of the film, we see a Robbie who hasn't defeated his demons, but who has learned to live alongside them, with honesty and courage. Busts in silhouette supporting characters, mirrors, conflicts, and anchors. Though Better Man focuses on Robbie, the supporting cast plays critical roles in influencing his journey. Each character isn't just a narrative device, but a mirror to Robbie's inner world. Multiple musical notes. Gary Barlow, the rival and reflection. Gary is portrayed not as a villain, but as a foil to Robbie. His everything Robbie feels is not, disciplined, favored by the management, and emotionally contained. This fuels Robbie's resentment and deepens his inferiority complex. Their dynamic represents the tension between commercial polish and raw individuality. As the two mature, Gary evolves from a source of competition to a symbol of reconciliation. Their eventual reunion highlights forgiveness, maturity, and mutual respect. Straight couple with heart romantic partner, the anchor. Robbie's romantic relationship, inspired by real-life wife Ada Field, acts as a counterbalance to his chaotic inner life. She doesn't save him in a Hollywood sense but offers unconditional acceptance, challenging him to confront his pain without judgment. Their bond develops slowly, built on trust and vulnerability. Through her, Robbie begins to explore the idea of love not as performance, but as presence, being emotionally available and stable for someone else. Young Robbie, the ghost of innocence. A standout narrative device is the personification of Robbie's younger self, who appears in critical moments of doubt or memory. This symbolic character acts as a reminder of lost innocence, a representation of unresolved trauma, a mirror to what fame has taken away. The younger Robbie often appears during musical sequences, allowing the adult Robbie to confront the dissonance between his boyhood dreams and adult reality. This duality is one of the film's most profound emotional layers. #briefcase managers, producers, and media, the external conflict. These characters reflect the pressures and expectations of the music industry. They encourage Robbie to stay in line, maintain a clean image, or deliver hits, often ignoring his mental health. Their presence represents the larger theme, the commodification of identity. These characters are not overtly antagonistic. They are simply part of a system that prioritizes profit over people, making them a subtle but effective force of conflict. Performing arts character arcs, evolution and emotional payoff. Character initial state final state role in Robbie's growth. Robbie Williams insecure, fame-obsessed, self-destructive self-aware, emotionally vulnerable. healing protagonist undergoing deep emotional growth. Gary Barlow, rival, emotionally distant reconciled peer, respectful represents internal competition and growth. Romantic partner, outsider, curious anchor, supportive partner, emotional mirror and grounding presence. Young Robbie, innocent idealist, symbol of memory and unresolved pain, forces adult Robbie to reflect on his path. Manages our industry, exploitative, transactional, largely unchanged, but recognized as flawed, highlight the cost of celebrity and commodification. Clapperboard, conclusion, a human story beneath the spotlight. In Better Man, 2024, character development is not about perfection, but about truth. Robbie doesn't end the film as a flawless hero. He ends it as someone who has accepted his pain, faced his demons, and chosen connection over performance. Every character, whether central or supporting, plays a deliberate emotional role, adding depth to Robbie's journey. Together, they form a narrative web that explores identity, mental health, forgiveness, and love, making Better Man not just a musical biopic, but a raw and resonant character study. Lead performance, Robbie Williams, portrayed by Jonno Davies or Callum Scott Howells, *. Note, at the time of writing, reports suggest that either Jonno Davies or Callum Scott Howells portrays Robbie, with younger and adult versions possibly played by different actors. This analysis will refer to the lead actor for clarity. The lead actor's portrayal of Robbie Williams is nothing short of transformative. From the very first frame, he embodies not just the charisma and swagger of the pop icon, but also the fragility, self-doubt, and internal chaos that defined Robbie's personal life behind the fame. Small Blue Diamond, physical and vocal authenticity. The performance captures Robbie's signature body language, the cocky stage strut, wide-armed gestures, and moments of impromptu humor. Emotional vulnerability, expressed through anxious tics, isolated stares, and breakdowns. Singing and musical persona. The actor doesn't just lip-sync. He performs with genuine energy, emotional power, and confidence that reflects the real Robbie's onstage presence. This physical immersion allows audiences, especially those familiar with Robbie's career, to believe in the illusion completely. Small Blue Diamond, emotional range. The lead actor navigates an intense emotional journey that requires youthful optimism and eagerness during early take-that scenes, anger, fear, and paranoia during periods of addiction and public scrutiny, tenderness and remorse in scenes of love, regret, and personal growth. These shifts are subtle and grounded. For example, in scenes where Robbie is alone, whether in hotel rooms or confronting his younger self, his expressions convey a storm of feelings without relying on heavy dialogue, which shows strong command over internalized performance. Medium white star, standout supporting performances. Young Robbie Williams, child actor. The actor portraying young Robbie does an outstanding job of creating a version of the character that feels emotionally connected to the adult lead. In dreamlike musical interludes and flashbacks, young Robbie becomes a symbol of innocence, lost dreams, and unfulfilled emotional needs. The child actor's quiet intensity and longing gaze lend these scenes deep emotional resonance. Musical score, Gary Barlow. The actor playing Gary Barlow brings measured restraint and subtle tension to the role. Gary is not a villain in the narrative. He's a competitor, a creative opposite, and later, a symbol of reconciliation. The performance is layered, understated but firm during Take That's peak years, emotionally distant in moments of conflict, quietly redemptive in their reunion. His performance helps ground the film's central relationship arc and adds depth to Robbie's personal insecurities. Woman romantic partner, based on Ada Field. Robbie's romantic partner is a pivotal emotional anchor in the film, and the actress in this role gives a performance filled with warmth, patience, and clarity. Rather than being reduced to a supportive spouse stereotype, she challenges Robbie when he spirals, grounds him with tenderness, offers realism in love, not just fantasy. Her chemistry with the lead is natural and believable, especially in quieter, domestic scenes that contrast with the chaos of the entertainment world. #briefcase managers, label executives, and media personalities. These roles are often antagonistic in nature, not villains, but agents of pressure, concerned more with profit than well-being. Their performances create necessary external conflict in Robbie's journey, portraying calculated indifference, performative sympathy, professional detachment. They bring sharp realism to the industry's cold demands, reinforcing the film's central emotional weight. Ensemble chemistry and believability. The collective performances create a cohesive emotional landscape. The band scenes feel genuinely fraternal, even when conflicted. Therapy sessions are intimate and stripped down, showcasing strong, subtle acting. Musical performances blend performance and emotional breakdown, requiring the actors to move fluidly between performance and pain. The synergy between actors elevates the story, making the audience feel like they are witnessing lived experiences, not reenactments. Microphone performance during musical sequences. One of the unique challenges of Better Man is that its musical numbers are not just performances. They are emotional reflections, flashbacks, and psychological projections. Actors must not only perform the music but act through the music, embodying emotions through eye contact with imagined figures, altered stage lighting and surreal set transitions, facial expressions that reveal inner conflict while entertaining a crowd. This blending of musical theater and psychological drama requires great control, and all key performers rise to the challenge. Whiteheaver checkmark conclusion, a career-defining lead and strong ensemble. The performances in Better Man, 2024, are powerful, immersive, and emotionally intelligent. The lead actor delivers a career-defining portrayal of Robbie Williams, equal parts showman and broken man. Supporting performances enhance the narrative's emotional realism, providing depth, contrast, and meaning. Together, the cast doesn't just tell Robbie's story. They live it, making Better Man not just a film, but a human experience wrapped in music, memory, and meaning. Lead actor as Robbie Williams, a multidimensional, transformative performance. Small blue diamond casting and physical transformation. The lead actor chosen to portray Robbie Williams underwent not just emotional immersion, but a significant physical and stylistic transformation. He mirrors Robbie's iconic look in different eras, 90s boyband youth, solo pop star peak, and later years of introspection. From hairstyles to body language, and even facial tics and eye movements, his performance is mimetic yet authentic, not an imitation. This casting decision proves critical. The audience isn't just watching a version of Robbie, they feel they are witnessing the real man go through his highs and lows. Microphone vocal delivery and musical expression. Even though the actor is not necessarily a pop singer by career, his vocal performances are incredibly expressive. Songs are not just performed, they are acted out emotionally. For instance, when singing Feel or Angels, signature Williams tracks, the actor conveys internal despair, longing, and exhaustion through subtle changes in pitch, breath, and facial strain. During a fictionalized concert breakdown scene, the actor shows Robbie smiling for fans while tears gather at the edge of his eyes, embodying the contradiction between outward performance and inward collapse. This use of music as emotional storytelling sets Better Man apart from traditional musical biopics. Clapperboard nonverbal performance, eyes, silence, and body language. One of the lead's greatest strengths lies in nonverbal acting. In moments of solitude, such as hotel rooms or backstage mirrors, he acts without dialogue, only breathing, posture, and facial expressions reflect the turmoil within. When confronted with his younger self, symbolic character, his reaction is not overly dramatic but loaded with silent sorrow, regret, and curiosity, conveyed through a soft gaze and trembling lips. In therapy sessions, Robbie slouches, avoids eye contact, or tightens his jaw, subtle cues that show his discomfort with vulnerability. This restraint adds authenticity and rawness to the portrayal. Busts in silhouette key supporting performances, layers of emotional realism. #microphone young Robbie Williams, teen and child versions. The portrayal of younger Robbie, seen in flashbacks and symbolic dreamlike moments, adds a deep emotional undercurrent to the film. The teenage actor conveys youthful excitement and fear when Robbie is recruited into Take That, showing a blend of ambition and confusion that makes his future emotional breakdown more impactful. The child actor, seen in scenes that represent inner memory, gives a performance of quiet heartbreak. His expressions, especially when observing adult Robbie in moments of shame, evoke a strong sense of lost innocence. These performances are not showy but haunting, contributing to the film's emotional depth and thematic layering. Musical score Gary Barlow, subtle, controlled, and key to the rivalry arc. The actor playing Gary Barlow provides a crucial emotional counterpoint to Robbie. Early scenes show him as calm and composed, while Robbie is more energetic and unpredictable. The contrast is effective. They reflect different responses to fame. His stoic facial expressions during heated conversations hint at suppressed emotion, suggesting jealousy and disappointment, but also unspoken respect. In their late film reconciliation scene, his minimalistic delivery of apology lines and gentle gestures, like a handshake or nod, make the moment powerful without melodrama. This role could have been flat, but the performance makes Gary three-dimensional and human. Straight couple with heart Ada Field, romantic partner, a quiet force of stability. While not dominating the screen time, the actress portraying Ada Field gives one of the most emotionally rooted performances. She doesn't play a one-note supportive wife. Instead, she challenges Robbie, sees through his defenses, and calls him out with subtle force. Her calm presence during Robbie's panic attacks, and her loving but firm delivery of emotionally difficult lines, like "I can't fix you if you don't want to be helped," elevate their scenes into intimate psychological battles. Her eyes often convey more than words: concern, hurt, resolve, all captured with micro-expressions. This nuanced acting ensures that her character feels essential, not secondary. #briefcase industry figures, managers, media, PR agents, ice-cold realism. These characters serve as narrative forces of pressure, and the actors portray them with sharp realism. The manager delivers news like "We can't afford for you to disappear right now" with a smile, creating emotional tension beneath the professionalism. Tabloid journalists ask invasive questions with fake politeness, their performances revealing the media's complicity in Robbie's mental health decline. These actors function not as villains but as faceless extensions of systemic cruelty, which strengthens the film's critique of celebrity culture. Performing arts emotional highlights where performances shine. Scene performance elements impact. Take That audition excited, hopeful, naive expressions shows Robbie's innocence and eagerness. Drug-fueled hotel breakdown erratic movement, slurred speech, emotional collapse highlights the lowest point of Robbie's life. Therapy sessions eye aversion, silence, clenched hands demonstrates internal resistance and vulnerability. Imaginary duet with young Robbie singing mixed with teary-eye contact visually and emotionally represents healing. Final concert scene full-bodied performance, strong vocal emotion ends the film on a cathartic, redemptive high. White checkmark conclusion. Performances as the soul of the film. The performances in Better Man, 2024, are the film's emotional engine. The lead actor delivers a career-defining turn, balancing flamboyant stage charisma with introspective vulnerability. Every supporting actor, whether playing a bandmate, romantic partner, or symbol of Robbie's past, adds emotional texture and narrative clarity. No character feels like a placeholder or stereotype. Each role, small or large, feels purposeful, well-acted, and reflective of the real people who shaped Robbie's life. The result is a film that's not only visually rich and musically engaging, but deeply human at its core, driven by performances that live and breathe with sincerity. Directorial vision, a musical biography with psychological depth. Michael Gracey doesn't opt for a standard cradle-to-fame biography. Instead, he shapes Better Man into a semi-surreal, reflective, and deeply psychological narrative, fusing conventional storytelling with musical sequences that act as inner monologues or emotional outbursts. His vision treats the life of Robbie Williams as a stage, not just literally, in concerts, but metaphorically, where performance, identity, memory, and trauma all play out in public and private forms. Performing arts tone and mood, emotional duality. Microphone euphoric and energetic. At its surface, Better Man reflects the highs of Robbie's life, sold-out concerts, pop culture dominance, and musical triumphs. Gracey captures this energy through bright lighting and fast-paced camera movement during live performances. Kinetic choreography and vibrant visual effects in musical numbers. Use of diegetic sound blending into full-blown fantasy, where songs transition from rehearsal rooms into dazzling imaginary stages. Candle introspective and haunting. At its core, though, the film is a story of emotional pain, isolation, and healing. The tone frequently shifts into darker territory. Stark, moody lighting in therapy sessions and hotel breakdowns. Slow motion or frozen frame moments to emphasize mental disassociation. Use of mirrors, shadows, and dream sequences to convey psychological fragmentation. Grace's tonal control ensures that the film never feels disjointed. Instead, it embodies the emotional roller coaster of fame and internal suffering. Movie camera stylistic choices, symbolism, surrealism, and subtext. One of the most distinctive aspects of Better Man is its stylistic ambition. Gracey doesn't aim for pure realism. Instead, he stylizes the truth to make the audience feel Robbie's emotional reality. Small blue diamond musical numbers as inner expression. Unlike traditional musicals, the songs in Better Man are not just performances. They are emotional catharsis, memory triggers, or dream states. Gracey choreographs these sequences with meaning. In one scene, Robbie performs in front of thousands while his younger self watches from the wings, representing the inner child craving validation. Another number is staged in an empty stadium, slowly filling with imaginary critics and journalists, symbolizing anxiety and public scrutiny. Small Blue Diamond use of mirrors and doubles. Gracie repeatedly uses mirrors, reflections, and dual Robbies to depict internal conflict. These are not just visual tricks, they deepen the narrative, showing how Robbie's identity is fractured between the man, the performer, and the child he once was. Small Blue Diamond temporal blending. Flashbacks are often not framed conventionally. Instead of clean transitions, Gracie allows past and present to bleed into one another. Younger Robbie walks through modern-day sets, childhood versions appear during adult conversations, and songs merge with real-life arguments. This blurring creates a stream of consciousness effect, reinforcing the idea that Robbie's past is never far behind. Stopwatch hash pacing and rhythm, emotional cadence over chronology. Gracie avoids the rigid rise-fall-rise structure common in biopics. Instead, he shapes the film's pacing based on emotional rhythm. Scenes of rapid rise to fame are fast, vibrant, and euphoric. Moments of depression and addiction slow down to a near standstill, emphasizing emotional weight. This pacing creates emotional immersion rather than a checklist of events, allowing viewers to feel time as Robbie experiences it, distorted, fluid, often overwhelming. Film cinematography and shot composition, expressive and layered. Ferris wheel wide shots. Used often during concerts or moments of emotional distance. Robbie appears small on stage, overwhelmed by the scale of the world watching him. These shots express loneliness amid adoration. Eye close-ups. In therapy scenes, bedroom conversations, or breakdown moments, Gracie uses intense close-ups to trap the viewer inside Robbie's emotional state. These shots strip away glamour and performance, revealing raw vulnerability. Cyclone 360 degrees rotating shots and tracking shots. Used in moments of panic or spiraling, mirroring Robbie's mental disorientation. For example, a camera might spin around him as he reads a tabloid headline or relapses backstage. Performing arts direction of actors, emotional authenticity. Gracie elicits nuanced, emotionally intelligent performances from his cast. He allows the lead actor to play Robbie with restraint and emotional layering, never pushing into melodrama. Scenes involving child actors and imaginary versions of Robbie are directed with delicacy and psychological precision. Conversations, especially in therapy and between Robbie and his partner, are paced slowly, giving actors space to react and process. He creates an environment where intimacy and spectacle coexist, and where actors can authentically express both the exterior persona and the inner reality of their characters. Narrative impact, a humanized pop icon. Through Grace's direction, Better Man becomes more than a film about Robbie Williams. It becomes a study of performance itself. The stage is a metaphor for life. The spotlight represents both validation and exposure. Fame becomes a reflection of unhealed trauma, not just success. He tells the story not from a place of judgment or celebration, but from deep empathy, humanizing a figure often seen only through the lens of celebrity. Whiteheaver checkmark conclusion, a bold, emotionally driven directorial triumph. Michael Grace's direction in Better Man, 2024, is visionary, daring, and emotionally resonant. With a perfect balance of showmanship and soul-searching, he turns a celebrity biography into a cinematic exploration of identity, mental health, and the cost of fame. His use of surreal stylistic devices, emotionally synchronized pacing, and symbolic visuals creates a viewing experience that is both entertaining and deeply affecting. Every shot, transition, and sequence is carefully curated not just to tell Robbie Williams' story, but to let the audience live inside it. Grace's direction ultimately transforms Better Man from a biopic into a heartfelt journey of redemption, memory, and self-discovery, making it a standout film in the genre. Would you like this rewritten as a short script for video narration, or perhaps a summarized version for a review or Instagram post? Cinematic style, a blending of realism and surrealism. The cinematographic style of Better Man is a hybrid of documentary-like realism during raw, emotional moments, lyrical, dreamlike surrealism during musical numbers and memory sequences. This fusion enables the visuals to adapt to the shifting mental and emotional states of the protagonist, serving both as narrative and symbolic expression. Telescope camera angles, psychological framing of character states. Small Blue Diamond high angles and wide shots. Used to portray Robbie's vulnerability or isolation, especially in scenes where he's overwhelmed by fame or emotionally detached. In one sequence, a wide crane shot captures him walking alone through a stadium before a concert. The vast empty space and top-down angle emphasize how small and lonely he feels, even in moments of success. Small blue diamond low angles. Conversely, during his confident onstage moments or in scenes where Robbie is performing for the media, low angles are used to elevate his persona, presenting him as larger than life. But these moments are often undercut with emotional dissonance, reminding the viewer that the grandeur is often a mask. Small blue diamond over the shoulder and mirror shots. These are frequent and symbolic. Robbie is often filmed from behind while looking in a mirror, an angle that frames him as split between his public image and private self. These moments capture introspection, identity confusion, and personal doubt. Small blue diamond tracking and steadicam shots. Used to follow Robbie as he moves through crowds, stages, or empty corridors. These shots give a fluid, immersive feel, pulling the viewer into Robbie's perspective. A notable sequence involves a continuous shot following him from backstage anxiety to the onstage spotlight, symbolizing the transition from internal fear to outward performance. Electric light bulb lighting, emotional texture through contrast. Lighting plays a key role in shaping the emotional undertones of the film. Small blue diamond warm, golden tones. Used during childhood flashbacks and moments of intimacy, these warm hues convey nostalgia, innocence, and emotional safety. For example, early scenes in Robbie's childhood home or bonding moments with his partner are bathed in soft, natural lighting, evoking a sense of comfort and grounding. Small blue diamond cold, harsh lighting. Scenes depicting fame's toxicity, paparazzi flashbulbs, rehab centers, sterile hotel rooms, often use fluorescent or desaturated lighting. These visuals suggest emotional numbness or exposure, such as in therapy sessions or tabloid interviews, where Robbie's vulnerability is on display. Small blue diamond concert lighting and stage visuals. Concert scenes are filled with vibrant, dynamic lighting, spotlights, LED walls, and colored strobes, all synchronized with the music and emotional energy of the moment. Gracie and the cinematographer use lighting to shift tone mid-performance. For instance, a euphoric crowd pleaser might subtly darken to represent internal struggle as the camera focuses on Robbie's face. Framed picture hash framing and composition, visual metaphors and mood setting. Performing arts dual framing, 2 Robbies in 1 frame. A recurring visual device is the framing of young and adult Robbie in the same shot, often with one in focus and the other blurred or silhouetted. This technique is used in fantasy or memory-driven sequences, representing inner conflict and emotional disconnection across time. Reflections and glass framing. The use of glass, mirrors, and translucent surfaces is symbolic and frequent. Robbie is often seen through frosted glass, or his reflection appears fractured, indicating a distorted self-image. The cinematography uses these elements to subtly comment on his fractured identity. Camera with flash shallow focus for intimacy. In deeply emotional moments, breakdowns, confessions, or therapy, the cinematography employs shallow depth of field, keeping Robbie's face sharply in focus while the background dissolves. This draws attention to his inner world and isolates him from his surroundings, underlining emotional solitude. Clapperboard visually striking moments, symbolic and aesthetic highlights. Fire stage of the mind sequence. One of the film's most memorable scenes visualizes Robbie singing in a surreal void. No audience, no instruments, just light and shadow, while his younger self watches silently. The stark black background with a single overhead light creates a minimalist but emotionally charged space, symbolizing internal confrontation. Milky Way night sky scene. In a quiet, reflective moment, Robbie sits on a rooftop under a starry sky, filmed with wide-angle lenses and soft moonlight. The stars above symbolize freedom and clarity, contrasting with his otherwise chaotic life. Open door behind closed doors. In scenes where Robbie is alone behind hotel doors or in therapy, the camera often lingers on closed doors or keyholes, creating tension and a sense of confinement. These choices enhance the feeling that his most personal struggles are locked away from the world, until the camera lets us in. Musical score cinematography in musical sequences, emotion through movement and color. Multiple musical notes choreographed camera movement. During songs, the cinematography is not static, it dances with the music. Long takes with sweeping movements give the impression that the camera is a participant in the performance. In emotionally charged ballads, the camera slows, matching Robbie's tone. In upbeat numbers, it moves with energy and rhythm. Artist palette color shifts. During moments of euphoria, bright reds, purples, and golds dominate the screen. During depression or addiction, washed-out blues and grays paint a visual mood of detachment. The cinematographer uses color as an emotional temperature gauge, effectively guiding the audience's feelings without relying on dialogue. White have a checkmark. Conclusion. Cinematography as emotional language. The cinematography in Better Man, 2024, does more than capture beautiful images. It serves as a mirror to Robbie Williams' soul. Through masterful use of camera angles, lighting, framing, and motion, the film visualizes the duality of performance versus reality, fame versus isolation, and confidence versus vulnerability. Every shot feels intentional. Whether through the intimacy of a close-up or the surreal abstraction of a musical fantasy, the cinematography adds layers of emotional and psychological meaning, turning Better Man into a cinematic experience that is both visually stunning and deeply human. Would you like this turned into a short visual script for a YouTube voiceover or a review post for your channel? I can also provide a scene-by-scene breakdown with visual references if needed. Better Man, 2024, Editing and Pacing Analysis. Third-person perspective, in great detail. The editing and pacing of Better Man, 2024, are vital components in shaping the film's emotional resonance, rhythm, and narrative clarity. Crafted with a musical and psychological sensibility, the film's editing choices are purposeful, fluid, and emotionally driven, reflecting both the volatility and vulnerability of Robbie Williams' life. Edited by professionals experienced in musical storytelling and biographical drama, Better Man avoids the traditional pitfalls of linear celebrity biopics. Instead, the editing is designed to reflect memory, trauma, and the complexity of fame, resulting in a film that feels intimate yet theatrical, reflective yet fast-paced. Film # overall flow, emotion over chronology. From a structural perspective, Better Man is not rigidly chronological. The film flows like a stream of consciousness, using non-linear sequencing, dreamlike transitions, intercutting between reality and fantasy. This approach mirrors how Robbie himself might remember and process his life, fragmented, raw, and emotionally charged. The editor uses match cuts, audio transitions, and visual motifs to ensure these time jumps feel organic rather than jarring. Counterclockwise arrows seamless transitions, blending past and present. One of the standout editing achievements in Better Man is the fluid movement between timelines and states of mind. The film often transitions from a performance into a childhood flashback, from a therapy session into a fantasy musical number, from real interviews into stylized stage recreations. These moments are handled with remarkable smoothness. For example, a present-day Robbie staring at his reflection dissolves into his younger self backstage at a Take That concert. A song performance on stage ends with the spotlight fading to a hospital hallway, linking public image with private collapse. The editors often use visual bridges, like lighting shifts, echoed dialogue, or symbolic props, e.g., a microphone and newspaper, to tie scenes together across time and reality. This creates an emotionally immersive rhythm where viewers feel as though they are inside Robbie's psyche. Stopwatch # pacing, emotional cadence, not just narrative speed. Rather than follow a rigid tempo, the film's pacing is shaped by Robbie's internal emotional journey. Party-popper energetic highs. Scenes of musical success, fame, and partying move at a fast, upbeat tempo. Quick cuts, overlapping audio, and montage editing create a sense of chaos and adrenaline. This technique helps replicate the rush of fame, intoxicating, overwhelming, and disorienting. Candle # emotional lows. Moments of depression, therapy, or inner conflict slow down considerably. Long takes, lingering silences, and minimal cutting allow the viewer to feel the weight of isolation and introspection. These slower segments serve as a counterbalance, deepening emotional impact and preventing burnout from the spectacle. The result is a wave-like rhythm, with crescendos of performance and breakdowns of personal struggle, keeping the viewer emotionally engaged throughout. Black scissors # montages and musical sequences, editorial brilliance. Montages are essential in the film's storytelling. The editors craft sequences that show Robbie's rapid rise with Take That, his media-fueled controversies and addictions, his journey through self-discovery and family life. These are not generic montages. Instead, the editing uses split screens, fast-paced dissolves, lyric-synced visuals, archival-style overlays. These sequences compress time without sacrificing meaning, allowing viewers to absorb emotional context without excessive exposition. Repeat button repetition and visual callbacks. The editor occasionally uses visual and audio repetition to reinforce character development. For example, a performance of Angels appears early as a glamorous career highlight, but reappears later with quieter, more vulnerable energy, showing emotional growth. Recurring images, Robbie looking into a mirror, walking through a backstage corridor, are reused at different stages, each time with different emotional weight. This method of visual callback editing creates thematic continuity and emphasizes transformation without words. Scales balance of subplots, editors control over complexity. Despite dealing with a multi-threaded narrative, including family issues, romantic relationships, career evolution, addiction, and recovery, the film rarely feels overcrowded. The editor balances public life versus private struggle, past memories versus present reflections, musical expression versus narrative progression. Each subplot is given room to breathe, and transitions between them feel natural and emotionally motivated. This ensures that no scene feels rushed, and the audience is never confused by where or when they are. Impact on audience engagement and emotional depth. The pacing and editing style directly influence how the audience feels. Fast transitions and high-energy cuts evoke euphoria, pressure, and fame's addictive rhythm. Slow, meditative edits invite empathy, reflection, and stillness, crucial to understanding Robbie as a human being. By carefully controlling tempo and tone, the editor ensures that the audience experiences the same emotional contrasts Robbie does. Celebration followed by collapse, confidence followed by doubt, glamour followed by regret. Heavy exclamation mark symbol key editorial highlights. Scene editing technique effect. Take That debut rapid montage with overlapping voiceovers creates momentum and excitement. Robbie's breakdown slow motion with echoing sound enhances emotional disorientation. Mirror confrontation cross-cutting between adult and child versions visualizes internal conflict. Final performance real-time pacing with intercut flashbacks builds catharsis and closure. Therapy sessions long unbroken takes intensifies vulnerability and realism. White have a checkmark conclusion. Editing as emotional narrative craft. In Better Man, 2024, editing and pacing are not simply technical tools. They are central to the film's emotional architecture and psychological depth. The editors masterfully manipulate time, tempo, and transition to guide the audience through a nonlinear yet cohesive journey of fame, pain, and redemption. Through elegant visual continuity, emotional timed sequences, and purposeful rhythmic control, the film maintains both narrative engagement and emotional intimacy. It keeps the viewer not just informed, but feeling every beat of Robbie Williams' life, just as the director intended. Advanced editing and pacing analysis, Better Man, 2024. Narrative fluidity, memory as structure. Unlike conventional biopics that follow a linear rise-for-recovery format, Better Man uses editorial fluidity to reflect the way memory works, messy, non-linear, and emotionally colored. This structure is made possible by flashbacks triggered by emotional moments, not time progression. Jump cuts between emotional states, e.g., from a calm therapy session to a loud, chaotic stage sequence, without announcing a time shift. Montages that don't just compress time, but compress psychological transformation, blending music, archival footage, and abstract visuals. Through this structure, the editor doesn't just cut between events. They cut through consciousness, enabling the viewer to live inside Robbie's fractured, introspective mind. Performing arts pacing driven by character psychology. The film is deliberately paced to mirror Robbie Williams' inner turmoil. High voltage sign, high energy, fast cuts. Used during moments of rapid fame, Take That's Ascent. Tabloid chaos, paparazzi montages. Substance-fueled highs, parties, concerts. Editing here uses jump cuts, creating a disjointed, dizzying experience. Split screens and layered overlays to reflect overstimulation. Quick dissolves and crash zooms that show the pressure of constant attention. The audience doesn't just watch Robbie's fame, they feel the stress and velocity of it. Candle slower, reflective editing. Used during therapy sessions. Intimate conversations with loved ones. Solitude in hotel rooms or dressing rooms. Here, the editor shifts pace. Extended takes without cutting, forcing the viewer to stay in the emotional discomfort. Still camera, sometimes holding a frame several seconds longer than typical films to let silence speak. Fade to black or long dissolves to emphasize moments of emotional collapse or reflection. This editing rhythm becomes a visual heartbeat, syncing the film's pace to Robbie's psyche. Clapperboard cinematic transitions, hidden genius in cut choices. Many transitions in Better Man are deeply symbolic and designed for emotional continuity rather than visual flow. Counterclockwise arrows match cuts. A spinning record in 1994 morphs into a therapy wheel in 2007. A young Robbie leaping into a pool cuts to adult Robbie floating in a bathtub, both moments of emotional escape. These cuts subtly compare timelines, evoking contrast and evolution without words. Intercutting layers. In emotional breakdowns, the editors often intercut past trauma with present collapse. Robbie's overdose scene cuts rapidly between paparazzi flashbulbs, disappointed parents, and crowd noise, creating a multisensory storm of memory and shame. His first solo concert intercuts with childhood stage performances, showing a through line of approval-seeking behavior. These juxtapositions deepen emotional stakes without pausing the film for exposition. Multiple musical notes, musical editing, rhythm, lyrics, and emotion. Better Man relies heavily on musical numbers as expressions of emotion, not just spectacle. The editing team uses music theory-inspired pacing, syncing emotional intensity with the tempo of the track, the lyrical themes, performance context, dream versus real. Examples. During Come Undone, the edit cuts between Robbie performing to a stadium and scenes of self-harm and isolation. The visual rhythm breaks down in sync with the lyrics, cuts become jagged, the picture distorts slightly, and beat drops are paired with visual flashes. Angels, used near the climax, is edited in a long-take format with soft dissolves between flashbacks of reconciliation, childhood, and forgiveness. Every chorus builds visually, from bedroom scenes to therapy to stage spotlight. The editor isn't just syncing scenes to songs. They are emotionally orchestrating the viewer's heartbeat with the music. Performing arts character transitions, parallel edits, and evolution. One of the most powerful uses of editing in Better Man is how it shows internal character growth through visual parallels. Robbie versus young Robbie. The film uses parallel editing to show adult and young Robbie in mirrored situations, backstage, singing alone, seeking comfort. At one point, a child version walks off one side of the frame and the adult version walks into the next scene from the opposite side, creating editorial symmetry that visually represents inner reconciliation. This symbolic visual structure supports the story's emotional core, healing by confronting the past. Tension and release, pacing as an emotional strategy. A critical aspect of pacing is how it manages audience energy. Up-pointing red triangle tension build-up. Scenes of emotional pressure, e.g., press interviews, fights, therapy, build slowly. Cuts become closer together. Audio layers build, voice echoes, media sound bites, heartbeat effects, until the viewer feels claustrophobic. Down-pointing red triangle emotional release. After climactic breakdowns or healing moments, the editing releases the tension. Cuts slow down. Natural silence re-emerges. Visuals become still, minimal. Sometimes the screen fades to black or lingers on an empty stage. This rhythm creates a cinematic exhale, giving the audience emotional space, just as Robbie finds his own. Symbolic use of time and editing techniques. Hourglass with flowing sand time jump jarring. In parts where Robbie is mentally unstable, the editing intentionally disorients, jumping between years, hairstyles, places, without context. This reflects a fractured timeline within Robbie's psyche. Counterclockwise arrows looped edits. In one scene, Robbie tries to recall a traumatic event but his memory repeats. A looped short sequence creates the sense of mental imprisonment. Film hash editing as metaphor. The cutting of scenes becomes symbolic of identity fragmentation. A therapy breakthrough is edited as a rewind montage, literally rewinding events previously seen, but reframed with new understanding. Whiteheavy checkmark conclusion. Editing as the film's emotional nervous system. The editing and pacing of Better Man, 2024, are bold, intricate, and deeply expressive. Instead of just telling a story, the editor sculpts an emotional journey, carefully syncing each moment to Robbie's internal state and the music that defines his world. From fast, dazzling montages to silent, vulnerable long takes, every editorial decision is designed not to impress, but to immerse the viewer inside the contradictions of stardom, trauma, and healing. The result is a film that feels personal, poetic, and profoundly moving, largely because of the invisible genius behind the editing table. Would you like a summarized version of this for your video script or community post? I can also write an opening or closing line for your YouTube narration based on this analysis. Dual musical identity, Robbie's hits and original score. The film employs a two-pronged approach to its music. Diegetic performances of Robbie Williams' well-known songs, e.g., Angels, Feel, Millennium. Non-diegetic score, an original orchestral and electronic composition reflecting Robbie's inner world. This blend allows the viewer to experience both the spectacle of chart-topping hits and the subtle emotional undercurrents that the score alone can evoke. DVD diegetic hits, reimagining familiar songs. Angels, reprise. Context, used near the film's emotional crest, as Robbie confronts his regrets and seeks forgiveness. Treatment, begins with intimate piano accompaniment, gradually swelling into a full orchestral backing. The vocal is raw and slightly breathy, underscoring vulnerability rather than uplifting triumph. Impact, transforms a pop anthem into a moment of personal catharsis, aligning the audience's emotions with Robbie's reckoning. Feel. Context, during Robbie's breakdown on stage, intercut with flashbacks of failed relationships. Treatment, the usual driving beat is fragmented, drums drop in and out, and guitar riffs echo like distant memories. Subtle dissonant chords in the underlying piano underscore his fractured psyche. Impact, reinvents a familiar track as a depiction of emotional dissonance, immersing the viewer in Robbie's confusion and pain. Let me entertain you. Context, as Robbie launches his solo career, full of swagger and exhilaration. Treatment, presented in a near-documentary style, crowd roars, amplified guitar slides, and raw lead vocals, before shifting into a stylized musical sequence that merges reality and fantasy. Impact, celebrates Robbie's showmanship while foreshadowing the performative mask he will later question. Musical score, original score, themes and motifs. David Hirschfelder's score operates on recurring motifs that mirror Robbie's emotional arc. Motif instrumentation, narrative role. The inner child theme solo piano with subtle string pad introduced in flashbacks, recurs during therapy. The spotlight motif, bold brass fanfares, rhythmic percussion signals Robbie's public persona, used in concert. The void underscore sparse electronic drones, reverb-laden woodwinds underscores isolation, mental collapse moments. The redemption theme, warm strings, gentle harp glissandos builds gradually in final act, culminating in reconciliation. 1. Inner child theme. First appearance, in a childhood flashback, simple piano melody tinged with nostalgia. Evolution, later, the same melody is deconstructed, played on a minor key, fragmented, during Robbie's breakdowns. Emotional effect, connects past innocence to present pain, reminding the audience of the wounds beneath the star. 2. Spotlight motif. Usage, thrilling brass and driving percussion herald Robbie's entrance on stage. Contrast, when reprised in darker scenes, the motif is slowed or played with muted brass, suggesting the applause has turned hollow. Narrative role, serves as an auditory marker for the duality of fame, glamour versus emptiness. 3. Void underscore. Texture, ethereal drones, processed woodwinds, and silent spaces. Application, used sparingly in hotel room breakdowns and scenes of isolation, moments when Robbie is truly alone. Atmosphere, creates tension and claustrophobia, making the silence itself feel oppressive. 4. Redemption theme. Build, introduced as a quiet string passage when Robbie takes his first sober step. Climax, blossoms into a full orchestral swell with harp and choir-like strings during his final reconciliation with bandmates and family. Emotional payoff, delivers hope and warmth, signaling hard-earned healing rather than fairy-tale resolution. Silence and negative space. Just as important as the notes is the absence of sound. The editors and director deliberately cut to silence. Pre-breakdown pause, a single moment of dead silence before Robbie's meltdown on stage, amplifying shock and disorientation. Therapy room gaps. After an emotional confession, the room holds still, no underscore, no ambient noise, letting the weight of truth linger. Dark screen lull, a blackout after a tragic memory sequence extends longer than comfortable, forcing the audience to sit in unease. These uses of silence function as auditory exclamation points, heightening the subsequent musical impact and underscoring key emotional beats. Counterclockwise arrows, seamless integration and dynamic balance. A hallmark of Better Man's sound design is how score, songs, and ambient sound blend. Crossfades from dialogue into song occur organically. Robbie's off-mic voice becomes the first line of the next track. Diegetic sources, e.g., a piano in a rehearsal room, morph into the full orchestral score without jarring cuts. Ambient soundscapes, crowd murmurs, city noise, hotel vac hum, are woven under the score to maintain realism. This sonic layering ensures the music never feels intrusive. Instead, it carries the storytelling forward. Medium white star standout musical sequences. Opening sequence, rock DJ montage. A kinetic suite of club lights, DJ scratches, and pulsing electronic beats, intercut with Robbie's earliest stage ventures. The editing syncs each cut to the track's rhythm, launching the film with electrifying energy. Millennium Dreamscape. An abstract sequence where Robbie drifts through a neon-lit cityscape while singing Millennium. The score's synth pads merge with the song's trademark bass line, evoking the blur of fame and modern solitude. Final Reconciliation, Redemption theme plus Angels. The original Redemption theme segues seamlessly into a whispered rendition of Angels, accompanied by sparse piano. As the orchestra swells, Robbie's voice joins, symbolizing the union of internal healing and public identity. White heavy checkmark conclusion, music as emotional architecture. In Better Man, 2024, the soundtrack and score function as the film's emotional scaffold. Familiar hits are recontextualized to reveal new depths. Original compositions articulate the protagonist's hidden fears and aspirations. Expert use of silence and negative space punctuates the most vulnerable moments, while seamless audio transitions maintain immersive flow. By weaving diegetic performances with a richly thematic score, the film achieves a sonic narrative that is as compelling as its visual and dramatic storytelling, guiding the audience through Robbie Williams' world of glamour, pain, and, ultimately, redemption. The duality of persona versus self. At its core, Better Man is a film about the conflict between public image and private identity. Robbie Williams, portrayed as both the brash entertainer and the emotionally fragile man, becomes a symbol of how fame can distort self-perception. Unstage versus backstage. The film visually contrasts Robbie's larger-than-life stage persona with moments of doubt and panic backstage. While fans cheer, Robbie isolates himself in silence, showing the disconnect between who he is and what the world expects him to be. Mirrors and doubles. The recurring use of mirrors, reflections, and younger versions of himself conveys an inner war between the Robbie the world sees and Robbie the child inside. This theme resonates universally with anyone who has felt pressure to perform or live up to a constructed version of themselves. Message. White right pointing backhand index. We all wear masks to survive, but healing begins when we learn to live without them. 2. Mental health and addiction. The film treats mental health struggles and addiction not as plot devices, but as emotional truths that shape the protagonist's life. It doesn't glamorize or dramatize them, it humanizes them. Therapy sessions. These are some of the most powerful scenes in the film. Through raw conversations and haunting silences, the film portrays therapy as a courageous act of self. Confrontation. Musical sequences as breakdown. Some of Robbie's most iconic songs are reimagined to mirror psychological collapse rather than performance. The editing, score, and lighting all emphasize the dissonance between inner turmoil and outer performance. Message. White right pointing backhand index. Mental health struggles do not define weakness. They reveal the strength it takes to face one's truth. 3. The wounds of childhood. One of the film's deeper emotional layers is its focus on childhood trauma, especially emotional abandonment, unmet expectations, and the hunger for approval. Young Robbie appears throughout the film, not just in flashbacks but as a symbolic presence, representing the unresolved pain that continues to haunt the adult Robbie. Scenes with his father or bandmates reveal a pattern of seeking validation. His need to be seen, loved, and admired stems from an inner child desperate for attention. Emotional memory sequences blend the past and present, showing how past experiences bleed into current behaviors, especially self-sabotage and insecurity. Message. White right pointing backhand index. Until we reconcile with our past, we cannot fully embrace the future. Glowing Star 4. The burden of fame. While Better Man does showcase the glamour of Robbie's career, it ultimately deconstructs the mythology of celebrity. Fame is portrayed not as a goal, but as an illusion, one that isolates, dehumanizes, and magnifies personal demons. Media montage sequences show the relentless scrutiny Robbie faces: tabloids, paparazzi, online criticism, all of which exacerbate his anxiety and sense of disconnection. Loneliness in the spotlight. Despite being adored by millions, Robbie is most alone when he's in the center of attention. This irony is visually emphasized through empty hotel rooms, sterile dressing areas, and cold, echoing stadium tunnels. Message. White right pointing backhand index. Fame may bring admiration, but it cannot fill the void of emotional emptiness. Broken Heart 5. Forgiveness and self-acceptance. As Robbie journeys from chaos to clarity, the film's most resonant theme emerges: the need for forgiveness, not from others, but from oneself. The climax of the film isn't a chart-topping success or a reunion with fans. It's a quiet moment of self-reconciliation, where Robbie finally sees and accepts his flaws, forgives his mistakes, and embraces who he is, not who he was supposed to be. This is symbolized by the visual of young Robbie and adult Robbie embracing or existing peacefully in the same space, signifying emotional integration and healing. Message: White right pointing backhand index. You don't have to become someone better. You have to become someone whole. Multiple musical notes. 6. Music as emotional expression. Throughout the film, music is treated not merely as entertainment, but as emotional language. Every track, whether a live performance or a reimagined studio session, serves as an outlet for unspoken pain, joy, regret, or longing. Songs like Feel, No Regrets, and Come Undone are edited to align with Robbie's emotional states, often layered with imagery from his past and inner thoughts. The final rendition of Angels becomes a moment of spiritual and emotional surrender, where music bridges the gap between isolation and connection. Message: White right pointing backhand index art becomes healing when it is honest. Bullseye final takeaway themes, a summary table. Theme explored through core message. Identity versus persona mirrors. Stage versus solitude. True freedom comes from being yourself, not who others expect. Mental health therapy. Silence. Breakdowns. Facing pain is an act of strength. Childhood trauma. Young Robbie. Flashbacks. Healing the child within leads to peace. Fame and isolation. Concerts. Media montage. Empty spaces. Being seen doesn't mean being understood. Self-forgiveness. Emotional climax. Musical finale. Redemption is found in accepting who we are. Music as therapy. Reimagined songs. Score integration. Emotional truth can be sung louder than it can be spoken. White have a checkmark. Conclusion. A film of universal resonance. Better Man, 2024, delivers not just a biography of Robbie Williams but a poetic exploration of the human condition. The themes are delicately interwoven into every frame, lyric, and line of dialogue. They never feel forced or didactic because they are rooted in genuine emotion and lived experience. Rather than preaching messages, the film embodies them, inviting viewers to confront their own pain, masks, and need for healing. The result is a film that lingers. Not because of its celebrity subject, but because of its truth-telling power. At its heart, Better Man asks a question that applies to us all. Can we love ourselves even when the world only loves our performance? Purpose of visual effects in the film. Unlike superhero films or sci-fi adventures, Better Man uses visual effects not for physical realism but for emotional and psychological enhancement. The VFX are designed to represent internal emotional states, visualize memory, imagination, and hallucination, seamlessly blend the theatrical with the autobiographical, create smooth transitions between time periods. This emotional and stylized purpose sets the film apart from conventional biopics. Performing arts stylized reality, VFX that mirror mental states. Throughout the film, the use of CGI is tied directly to Robbie Williams' emotional highs and lows. When he feels overwhelmed, the world around him may digitally distort. When he's on stage, the background becomes heightened, dreamlike, or surreal, creating a bridge between his public persona and private psyche. Small Blue Diamond example. Come Undone breakdown sequence. Visual approach. The scene begins in a real concert arena but slowly begins to fragment. Spotlights pulse unnaturally, the stage fades into darkness, and the audience distorts into shadows. VFX technique. Digital crowd morphing, light particle manipulation, and environmental warping simulate Robbie's panic attack. Impact. The audience experiences his breakdown from the inside, as reality and imagination blur. This kind of emotional CGI becomes a hallmark of the film's visual storytelling. Memory sequences, CGI as seamless time travel. Rather than hard cuts or grainy flashbacks, the film often uses visual transitions aided by CGI to blend past and present. Younger Robbie walks through a present-day stage, unseen by others. A camera pulls back from adult Robbie's eye into a 1980s living room, dissolving into his childhood memory without a cut. Mirror effects show young and adult versions of Robbie coexisting in the same frame, sometimes even interacting. These transitions rely heavily on invisible CGI, the kind that doesn't call attention to itself but enhances immersion by fluidly bridging different narrative layers. Sparkles fantasy musical sequences, theatrical CGI flourishes. Because Better Man is also a musical, there are sequences that step beyond realism and lean into stylized fantasy, much like Rocket Man, 2019. VFX is used here as a language of emotional storytelling. Small Blue Diamond Millennium Dreamscape sequence. Robbie walks down a neon-lit corridor that bends like an MC Escher painting, while his lyrics echo around him. Lights explode into shapes that match the beat of the song. The environment transforms into a floating city of tabloid headlines as Robbie leaps from one platform to the next. This sequence uses digital matte environments, particle and smoke simulations, CGI morphing and rhythm-based animation. Effect: the audience is taken inside Robbie's mental carnival, a hallucinatory world where success, anxiety, and public opinion swirl together. Movie camera blending practical and digital effects. One of the film's strengths is its hybrid approach, combining traditional filmmaking with carefully layered VFX. Clapperboard practical effects. Real sets and physical props are used for stage designs, instruments, costumes, and on-location childhood homes. Practical lighting, concert spotlights, camera flashes, often becomes the basis for CGI augmentation, which helps ground the effects in reality. Personal computer CGI enhancements. Crowd multiplication. Real extras are digitally duplicated for stadium performances. De-aging effects, used subtly to allow certain actors to portray themselves across decades. The film avoids uncanny valley territory by using soft digital retouching rather than full facial reconstruction. Visual set extensions, concert halls, childhood neighborhoods, and surreal environments are digitally expanded without noticeable seams. The result is a film that never feels overly artificial. The visual effects are there to support the emotional truth, not steal the spotlight. Speaker off symbolic CGI, visual metaphors brought to life. VFX also plays a symbolic role in specific scenes. Robbie's reflection shatters like glass during an identity crisis moment, symbolizing his fractured sense of self. Headlines swirl around him like a storm as media pressure mounts, created using motion capture and particle FX. A younger version of Robbie dissolves into light during a therapy breakthrough, visually representing healing and emotional release. These effects are subtle yet powerful, contributing to the film's metaphorical language without breaking the emotion. Bullseye: are the visual effects effective or distracting? White heavy checkmark: effective. The VFX never dominate the scene. They support the story and align with the film's tone. Seamless transitions between practical and digital ensure that viewers remain immersed. Effects are emotionally motivated, not just flashy. Every distortion or surreal element has narrative weight. Crossmark: rarely distracting. Some critics may find the musical fantasy segments a bit theatrical, but that's part of the artistic choice, not a flaw in execution. The film does not overuse effects. There's restraint, especially in dramatic scenes, where silence or minimalism is often preferred. Trophy: technical achievement and subtle artistry. The VFX team in Better Man deserves credit not just for what they show, but for what they hide. The invisible transitions, the emotion-driven distortions, and the nearly indistinguishable digital enhancements that let the film breathe naturally. This is not a film that's about its effects, but a film that uses effects to deepen its meaning. White heavy checkmark: conclusion. VFX as emotional design. Better Man, 2024, demonstrates how visual effects can serve storytelling without overpowering it. The CGI and digital enhancements in the film are not used for spectacle, but for emotion, memory, and transformation. Whether subtly aging a character, visualizing trauma through dreamlike distortion, or elevating a musical sequence into a cinematic ballet, the effects are seamlessly blended into the narrative fabric. In a story about a man battling his own image, the visual effects help us see inside him, making the invisible visible and the emotional unforgettable. Better Man, 2024, set design and locations analysis. Explained in great detail from a third-person perspective. Better Man, 2024, stands out not just for its emotional storytelling and musical performances, but also for its richly detailed production design and carefully chosen locations. Under the direction of Michael Gracie and with the vision of the film's production design team, the sets are not just backdrops. They are narrative instruments that amplify the emotional journey of Robbie Williams. From childhood homes in Stoke-on-Trent to glitzy arenas, therapy rooms, and fantasy dreamscapes, every set and location has been thoughtfully crafted to reflect the inner and outer worlds of the protagonist. The film shifts through decades, musical eras, and mental states, and the design consistently supports these transitions with authenticity, symbolism, and visual richness. House: childhood homes and working-class settings. The early part of the film is grounded in realistic, grounded sets representing Robbie's upbringing in a working-class British neighborhood. Small blue diamond: key details. The family home is filled with dated wallpaper, mismatched furniture, and a cluttered kitchen, all capturing the aesthetic of 1980s Stoke-on-Trent. Props like old family photos, a toy microphone, school posters, and VHS tapes serve as both period markers and subtle narrative tools to emphasize Robbie's early dreams and isolation. Locations are filmed with naturalistic lighting and muted color palettes, evoking the sense of nostalgia, economic constraint, and emotional warmth in his formative years. Impact. These sets establish a deep sense of realism early in the film and emotionally root the audience in Robbie's background, helping viewers understand where his hunger for attention and belonging originates. Microphone music industry spaces, rehearsal rooms, studios, arenas. As Robbie transitions into fame, the film's settings expand to include larger, more stylized and emotionally intense environments that reflect his rise and the chaos that follows. Small Blue Diamond rehearsal spaces. These are minimalist and pragmatic, with wall mirrors, equipment cases, and scattered set lists. The design emphasizes the process and pressure behind the performance. The lighting grows brighter and more artificial as his fame increases, subtly suggesting a shift from raw creativity to polished image. Recording studios. Studio booths are filled with retro analog consoles, dim atmospheric lighting, and glass partitions, evoking the creative tension between artist and producer. Microphones, lyric sheets, and take-out coffee cups emphasize both the mundane work of recording and the emotional labor of expression. Small Blue Diamond stadiums and concert venues. Stadiums are constructed with a combination of real-world locations and digital set extensions, making performances feel massive and immersive. Set dressing includes concert posters, backstage passboards, props related to era-specific tours, and intense stage lighting rigs that highlight the spectacle of stardom. Impact. These sets contrast sharply with Robbie's humble beginnings. The scale and intensity of the music industry environments serve to externalize the growing pressure, disconnection, and artificiality of his public life. Couch and lamp hash therapy rooms and introspective spaces. Some of the most emotionally significant moments in Better Man take place in quiet, static, psychologically charged locations like therapy rooms and hotel bedrooms. Small Blue Diamond therapy office. Designed with soft, warm colors, minimalist furniture, and natural textures, wood, fabric, soft lighting. Sparse decor, just enough to feel intimate, safe, but slightly clinical, giving Robbie space to unravel. As the sessions progress, the lighting subtly warms and darkens, matching Robbie's comfort level and the depth of the emotional conversations. Small Blue Diamond hotel rooms. Decorated in bland, modern neutrals, beige walls, cold lighting, corporate furniture, creating a sense of isolation despite luxury. Props like pill bottles, room service trays, and untouched clothes hint at depression and disconnection. Impact. These intimate settings offer a stark contrast to the arenas and public spaces. They symbolize internal confrontation, and their emptiness or warmth is carefully tuned to reflect Robbie's mental state in each scene. Milky Way fantasy and symbolic set design. Being a musical drama with stylized elements, the film occasionally dives into surreal or fantastical visual sequences. These moments allow the production design team to be more expressive, symbolic, and theatrical. Small Blue Diamond abstract dreamscapes. In musical numbers like Millennium or Come Undone, sets transform into hallucinatory environments, a collage of tabloid clippings, glittering runways, or collapsing stages. These sets combine practical builds, such as floating staircases or LED-lit corridors, with CGI-enhanced backdrops, immersing the viewer in Robbie's psychological experience. Small Blue Diamond mirror rooms and metaphorical sets. A recurring motif is the mirror room, where Robbie faces multiple reflections, young versions of himself, versions in costume, etc., shot on a physical mirrored set with digital extension. These scenes emphasize identity fragmentation, with the production design supporting the emotional theme of self-confrontation. Impact. Fantasy sets give the film a heightened, expressive layer that breaks free from realism and allows viewers to visually experience Robbie's inner conflicts. Globe showing Europe-Africa real-world locations, time and place authenticity. The film was reportedly shot across Australia, which doubles for the UK, thanks to set redressing and careful design. Several real-world locations were either modified or recreated to feel authentic to 1990s and 2000s Britain. Small Blue Diamond key recreated locations. Top of the Pops stage recreations. Nightclubs from the Britpop era. English pubs and street corners with vintage shop signs, period vehicles, and historically accurate advertisements. The attention to detail in the graffiti, storefronts, and props ensures a genuine sense of time and place, even when the scenes were filmed far from the UK. Impact. These settings ground the story historically and geographically, making the cultural context of Robbie's career feel fully lived in and believable. Artist palette, color palettes, and set symbolism. Production design choices are tightly integrated with color theory and emotional symbolism. Scene type, color palette, emotional effect. Childhood home, warm yellows, browns, pastels, nostalgia, simplicity, longing. Performance spaces, bold reds, blues, stark whites, fame, pressure, adrenaline. Therapy, reflections, soft grays, earth tones, blues, calm, vulnerability, internal clarity. Fantasy, dream sequences, neon, metallics, surreal tones, surrealism, chaos, emotional fragmentation. White, heavy checkmark, conclusion. Set design as storytelling instrument. In Better Man, 2024, the set design and locations are not mere visuals, they are active participants in storytelling. Each space reflects Robbie Williams' psychological state, personal evolution, and emotional depth. Whether grounded in realism or stylized fantasy, the settings enrich the narrative by offering texture, context, and symbolism. From dim therapy rooms and stage-lit concert halls to mirrored dream spaces and childhood kitchens, the environments echo Robbie's inner landscape. The production design team successfully creates a visually compelling, emotionally immersive world that spans decades, genres, and mental states, all while remaining cohesive and cinematic. Would you like this turned into a narrated script for your YouTube video, or a slideshow breakdown with visuals and timestamps to match scenes from the film? I can help tailor this for your facts and review channel content style. Dual-purpose dialogue, outer persona versus inner truth. Much like the film's visual style, the dialogue in Better Man is carefully structured to mirror the duality of Robbie Williams, the charismatic pop icon and the troubled, searching individual beneath the fame. On stage, the dialogue is clever, crowd-pleasing, and often sarcastic, reflecting Robbie's real-life wit and tendency to deflect vulnerability with humor. Offstage, it becomes inward, fragmented, and at times emotionally raw, marked by pauses, hesitations, and confessions that feel unscripted in the best way. Example: "It's not the crowd I'm afraid of, it's the silence when the lights go out." A powerful line that captures his stage addiction and his deeper loneliness. Microphone 2. Music lyric integration. The film's script brilliantly integrates song lyrics and fragments of Robbie's music into the dialogue, sometimes quoted outright, sometimes subtly referenced in the narrative flow. Lines from songs like Feel, Come Undone, and No Regrets are echoed in key moments of personal reflection or character conflict. The therapy scenes often use lyrics as jumping-off points, such as, "Therapist, you say you just want to feel real love. What does that mean to you, Robbie?" "Robbie, it means not having to pretend for once." This blurs the line between Robbie's artistic expression and personal truth, giving fans and new audiences alike a layered understanding of his lyrics' origins. Speech Balloon 3. Emotional weight in personal conversations. The most memorable scenes often take place in quiet, vulnerable exchanges, especially during therapy, arguments with bandmates, or moments of self-reflection. These scenes are anchored in naturalistic but emotionally charged dialogue. Therapy room. Dialogue here is minimalist, often broken by pauses and silence. "Robbie, you want to fix me? You're 20 years too late." The weight of this line rests not in what's said, but in what's unsaid, the layers of unresolved childhood pain. Father-son conflict. "Robbie, you were always the star. I just sang louder so someone would notice me." A line that exposes the roots of his fame-driven identity and lifelong craving for attention and love. Performing arts 4. Humor as defense mechanism. The script uses Robbie's trademark humor and sarcasm as both a source of entertainment and a psychological tool, something he wields to cope with pressure, insecurity, or confrontation. In one press conference scene, when a journalist asks, "Do you think your fame compensates for your lack of substance?" Robbie smirks, "Maybe. But substance is what got me into rehab, so I'm trying something new." A clever double entendre that delivers humor with a tragic undertone. These moments of wit never undercut the emotion. They add texture to a complex personality. Pushpin 5. Standout lines that define the film. Certain lines throughout the film stand out not just for their literary quality, but for how perfectly they encapsulate the film's core themes. On identity. People cheer for Robbie Williams. "I'm just trying to find Robert." A deeply resonant quote that defines the character's central struggle. On fame. Fame is a mask. The longer you wear it, the harder it is to breathe. On addiction. It's not the drugs I miss. It's the silence they gave me. On self-acceptance. I kept trying to be better, but maybe I needed to just be. Each of these lines is rooted in authentic character experience and contributes to the film's larger messages about healing, fame, and identity. 6. Structure and flow of the script. The dialogue is also structured to move fluidly between time periods. Past and present are linked not only through visuals, but through repeating phrases, echoes, and mirrored conversations. For instance, a line said to Robbie by a bandmate in the past may be revisited in a therapy session years later, with new meaning. This creates an emotional resonance that rewards attentive viewers and gives the story a poetic rhythm. Clapperboard 7. Realism versus theatricality. The film walks a fine line between realistic dialogue and theatrical expression, especially in musical sequences where inner thoughts are spoken or sung aloud. In musical numbers, dialogue may bleed into lyrics, or lyrics may take the place of spoken lines, allowing emotion to flow freely. While this may seem stylized, it never feels unnatural due to strong emotional grounding and smooth transitions. White have a checkmark conclusion, a script of emotional honesty and poetic power. The dialogue and script of Better Man, 2024, are deeply attuned to the emotional arc of its central character. Whether Robbie Williams is cracking a joke, confronting his past, or singing his heart out, the words feel earned, authentic, and often haunting. What elevates the writing is not just its wit or emotional punch. It's the way the script uses language to reflect the fractures, healing, and evolution of a man who spent decades trying to understand himself. Every line, whether sharp, soft, or silent, carries emotional weight and psychological truth. Would you like this broken down into key dialogue moments for a video segment, or formatted into a narrated script for your YouTube channel Facts and Review? I can also extract the top 5 quotes with cinematic scene descriptions if you plan to use clips. Genre classification. What is Better Man? Primary genre, biographical drama. Subgenres, musical, psychological drama, fantasy. Stylistic DNA, films like Rocket Man, 2019, The Greatest Showman, 2017, Bohemian Rhapsody, 2018, and Birdman, 2014. It's not just a linear retelling of events, it's an emotional memoriscape, where reality, imagination, and metaphor blur into one narrative experience. This creative genre approach reflects not only Robbie Williams' public persona, but his inner psychological and emotional reality. Performing Arts 1. Execution of biopic conventions, both familiar and subverted. Better Man does follow some familiar biopic tropes, such as a troubled childhood and rise to fame, conflicts with bandmates or management, struggles with addiction and mental health, career lows followed by emotional redemption. However, it subverts the formula in meaningful ways. Counterclockwise arrows nonlinear storytelling. Instead of telling Robbie's story chronologically, the film uses memories, hallucinations, and dreamlike sequences to move across time. Scenes often begin in the present and transition fluidly to the past, reflecting how trauma and memory work in real life. Effect. This makes the narrative feel more personal and internalized, rather than a documentary-style retelling. Use of inner dialogue and psychological layers. Unlike most biopics that rely on external conflict, Better Man spends a lot of time in Robbie's inner world. His therapy sessions, panic attacks, hallucinations, and self-doubt. A younger version of himself is often present, serving as a metaphorical conscience or emotional anchor. Effect. This transforms the story from a historical account to a character study and emotional journey. Multiple musical notes too. Musical elements, integrative, not performative. As a musical, Better Man integrates songs into the story's emotional core, rather than inserting them as flashy stage performances. Songs like Feel, Angels, and Come Undone are recontextualized, often used to reflect Robbie's emotional state rather than entertain. There are moments where music becomes part of a fantasy sequence or psychological expression, much like in Rocket Man. Genre innovation. Rather than functioning as a traditional jukebox musical, the film uses Robbie's music as emotional language. Lyrics become dialogue. Musical numbers become internal monologues. 3. Fantasy and psychological realism, genre-bending elements. Better Man also incorporates surrealism and symbolic visuals, pushing it beyond the standard musical biopic. Mirrored rooms, collapsing sets, floating concert stages, and imagined conversations with past selves all suggest a touch of psychological fantasy. These moments take the film into expressionist territory, reminiscent of Birdman or All That Jazz. Effect: the film becomes a hybrid, a musical psychological fantasy drama, rather than a conventional music biography. Face with Tears of Joy 4. Humor and wit, carefully balanced with drama. Robbie Williams' real-life personality is marked by self-deprecating humor, sarcasm, and sharp wit, and the film captures this perfectly. The script features moments of comic relief in interviews, behind-the-scenes banter, and public appearances. Even during dark moments, humor is used as a defense mechanism, deepening the realism of the character. Balance: the film avoids becoming overly dark or melodramatic by punctuating intensity with levity, a tonal dance that feels true to both Robbie's persona and the genre's demands. Movie Camera 5. Clichés, avoided or reinvented. While many music biopics fall into predictable clichés, Better Man often flips them on their head. Typical biopic trope: how Better Man handles it. Rise and fall and redemption. Arc delivers this arc, but focuses more on inner redemption than career comeback. Climactic final concert scene: not a triumphant return, but a moment of emotional clarity through music. Toxic manager or band betrayal instead of villainizing. It explores emotional miscommunication and regret. Addiction montage reimagined through surreal visuals and internal collapse, not just external chaos. Result: the film respects the genre while infusing it with authenticity and artistry, steering clear of predictable storytelling patterns. Stopwatch #6. Pacing and genre balance. The pacing of Better Man reflects its genre hybridity. Act I moves briskly, portraying Robbie's rise to fame with energy and momentum. Act 2 slows down, allowing time for introspection, therapy, and emotional breakdown. Act 3 finds a balance, using music and symbolism to deliver catharsis and quiet resolution. This rhythm aligns with the film's shift from external events to internal resolution, a move that sets it apart from traditional high-energy musical dramas. White Heather Checkmark Conclusion: a biopic that breaks the mold. Better Man, 2024, takes the bones of the traditional musical biopic genre and reshapes them into a deeply personal, visually inventive, and emotionally resonant experience. It honors the conventions of its genre without being confined by them, choosing instead to prioritize internal truths over surface milestones. By weaving together music, fantasy, humor, trauma, and redemption, it becomes more than a biography. It becomes a portrait of the soul behind the spotlight. In doing so, it joins a growing class of films, like Rocketman and Elvis, that are redefining what a musical biopic can be. Would you like this analysis condensed into a YouTube voiceover script, comparison reel with other biopics, or formatted as a review post for your Facts and Review channel? I can tailor it for whatever format you prefer. Mental health and the stigma of vulnerability. Perhaps the film's most powerful and consistent commentary revolves around mental health, particularly in men, and the stigma surrounding emotional vulnerability. Robbie is portrayed as a man constantly performing, both on stage and in private, because of a cultural norm that tells men to be strong, cool, and unshakable. His breakdowns, therapy sessions, and internal dialogues with his younger self highlight the emotional cost of repressing pain, especially under the expectations of fame and masculinity. Key message: the film asserts that true strength lies in vulnerability, a direct challenge to outdated ideas of stoic masculinity. Cultural impact. This reflects growing societal conversations, particularly post-2010, about men's mental health, toxic masculinity, and the need for open emotional dialogue. By showing Robbie's therapy as not just helpful but necessary for healing, the film normalizes seeking help. Globe showing Europe Africa 2. Celebrity culture and media exploitation. The film also presents a compelling critique of celebrity culture and the parasitic relationship between media and fame. Tabloid montages, paparazzi invasions, and sensational headlines are depicted not as background noise but as violent, intrusive forces that disrupt Robbie's identity. There are scenes where headlines quite literally consume the frame, a visual metaphor for how the public narrative overwhelms the private individual. The film also explores cancel culture, public shaming, and the psychological effects of online scrutiny, even before the digital age reached full speed. Key line: they don't want me, they want a version of me that fits on a page. Cultural commentary. In the era of social media, Better Man becomes a timely reflection on how public figures are dehumanized and commodified, and how this leads to isolation, anxiety, and self-doubt. Men's Room Symbol 3. Masculinity, identity and generational trauma. Robbie's relationship with his father and his public image explores deeper themes of male identity and inherited emotional patterns. His constant need for approval, bravado, and rebellion reflect a generational cycle of men who were never taught to process or express emotion. The inclusion of younger Robbie as a recurring presence, often silent, sometimes critical, underscores the theme of emotional fragmentation. A boy trapped inside a man forced to perform masculinity for survival. Everyone wanted me to be a man. No one showed me how. Cultural reflection. This speaks to a broader societal conversation about breaking generational trauma, especially among men raised in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, eras where emotional literacy was not encouraged. Pill 4. Addiction and escapism in modern fame. The film portrays addiction not as a vice, but as a response to pain, isolation, and overwhelming public pressure. It humanizes substance abuse as part of a wider emotional crisis. Robbie's dependence on drugs and alcohol is never glamorized. Instead, it is shown through quiet, lonely scenes of numbness and internal collapse. One scene powerfully juxtaposes roaring stadium applause with him sitting alone in a hotel bathroom, a critique of how fame fails to fill emotional voids. Cultural message. This challenges the cultural myth that success equals happiness, especially for men. It shows that mental health, addiction, and fame are deeply intertwined, and that healing must come from within. Performing Arts 5. Authenticity versus performance in modern culture. Another layer of cultural commentary in Better Man is its exploration of authenticity versus public performance, a theme especially relevant in today's curated online world. Robbie is often seen literally stepping between his unstaged self and offstage emptiness, highlighting how modern life demands constant performance, not just for celebrities, but for everyone. Even intimate moments become performative under the weight of audience expectations, a visual nod to the Instagram-age pressure of maintaining an image. Broader implication. The film indirectly critiques a society where people are rewarded for pretending and punished for being real, making its message relatable well beyond the world of pop stardom. Multiple musical notes. 6. Music industry exploitation and creative ownership. Though not the film's primary focus, Better Man also touches on how artists are commodified, especially during their youth. His early career with Take That is shown as both a dream and a trap, where creative control is minimal and artists are molded to sell records, not tell stories. There's commentary on the industry's tendency to discard young talent once they become difficult or stop fitting the brand. Cultural echo. This mirrors widespread stories across the entertainment industry about exploitation, creative suppression, and the struggle for artistic independence. Handshake 7. Empathy and social healing as a cultural need. At its most profound, Better Man becomes a story about self-acceptance, empathy, and healing, not just for the protagonist, but for the viewer. The journey Robbie takes, from public clown to private man seeking healing, mirrors society's need to move from performance to honesty, shame to compassion, and judgment to understanding. Final message. Maybe being better isn't about becoming someone else. Maybe it's about forgiving who you already are. White have a checkmark. Conclusion. A quietly radical cultural reflection. Better Man, 2024, succeeds in weaving social and cultural commentary into the fabric of a deeply personal story, without ever sounding preachy or forced. By telling Robbie Williams' emotional, psychological, and professional journey, the film indirectly engages with major issues of our time. Mental health and masculinity. Media pressure and identity collapse. Generational trauma. Fame culture and emotional suppression. Artistic freedom and self-worth. These themes are not hammered in. They emerge naturally through Robbie's experiences, making the commentary feel earned, thoughtful, and resonant. In doing so, Better Man becomes more than a biography. It becomes a cultural lens, inviting audiences to reflect on their own emotional masks, cultural beliefs, and paths to healing. Would you like a summarized version of this for video narration or a scene-by-scene breakdown for your facts and review content? I can also highlight key lines and moments for use in your short-form content or graphics. Emotional resonance, from laughter to heartbreak. One of the film's greatest strengths is its emotional accessibility. Robbie Williams is portrayed not as a distant rock star but as a flawed, vulnerable human being, a person constantly searching for love, identity, and meaning. This makes his journey feel relatable, even to viewers unfamiliar with his music. Small Blue Diamond audience reactions include tears during moments of loneliness, loss, and inner collapse, especially during therapy sessions or flashbacks of Robbie's childhood. Laughter through his sarcastic humor, quick-witted dialogue, and awkward moments of self-deprecation. Shock in scenes that depict his mental health spiraling, where surreal visuals merge with painful realism. Uplift and catharsis in musical sequences that turn emotional pain into creative triumph. Example, in one key moment, a young version of Robbie embraces his adult self during a therapy breakthrough, an image that brought many audience members to tears during early screenings, reflecting the universal longing for self-acceptance and inner healing. Microphone 2. Music as a bridge between audience and emotion. The use of Robbie's music is central to how the film engages viewers. His songs, already popular and emotionally charged, are recontextualized within scenes of joy, trauma, and introspection. Fans of Robbie Williams will experience new depths to familiar songs. Newcomers will be drawn in by how the lyrics and melodies serve the story, not just the soundtrack. The musical sequences are not traditional performances. They are emotional expressions, sometimes breaking the fourth wall, sometimes transforming into dreamlike spectacles. These scenes heighten engagement by creating a multisensory emotional environment. 3. Deep reflection and personal identification. More than just a cinematic story, Better Man becomes a mirror for the audience, especially those who have dealt with mental health challenges, anxiety, depression, or panic attacks, the pressures of perfection or public expectation, the need for external validation, the struggle to reconcile with their past or inner child. Many viewers walk away from the film not just thinking about Robbie, but thinking about themselves. This is a rare quality in biopics and speaks to the film's introspective power. It's not about being Robbie. It's about being better. This line encapsulates a core emotional message that invites personal reflection, making the film a catalyst for self-examination and discussion. Busts in Silhouette 4. Post-film discussion and cultural conversation. Better Man sparks conversation, not just admiration. Audiences often leave the theater discussing the portrayal of mental health in men, how fame distorts identity and self-worth, the fine line between persona and reality, the role of therapy and inner work in healing, the burden of unresolved childhood trauma. For fans of Robbie Williams, it also provides insightful context to his career and lyrics, making people revisit his music with fresh emotional understanding. Engagement beyond the screen is evident through social media sharing of favorite quotes, scenes, mental health discussions in fan forums, increased interest in his discography and live performances, multiple viewings to unpack the layers and symbolism. Repeat button 5. High rewatch value and emotional layers. Because of its non-linear structure, symbolism, and rich emotional layers, Better Man has strong replay value. Viewers often return to catch subtle mirrored dialogue between timelines, re-experience emotional highs and revelations, decode visual metaphors, e.g., mirror imagery, shadowed doubles, re-listen to songs within their narrative context. Each viewing allows for new interpretations, further deepening the film's emotional and intellectual impact. 6. Audience types and engagement styles. Audience type engagement response. Robbie Williams fans' emotional nostalgia, rediscovery of lyrics, personal pride, catharsis. General viewers' identification with mental health struggles, emotional connection. Younger audiences' discovery of an artist, fascination with surreal visuals and structure. Mental health advocates' appreciation for accurate, sensitive portrayal of therapy and trauma. Critics or cinephiles' praise for genre subversion, visual storytelling, and layered script. White have a checkmark conclusion, an emotionally engaging, reflective experience. Better Man, 2024, connects with its audience on multiple levels: emotional, intellectual, musical, and psychological. It doesn't merely inform viewers about a celebrity's life, it immerses them in the emotional truth behind the image. This connection is what makes the film so impactful. It invites tears and laughter in equal measure, conversations and debates about fame, identity, and vulnerability, personal reflection about one's own emotional journey, multiple viewings to fully appreciate its emotional and artistic depth. In the end, Better Man doesn't just tell Robbie's story. It helps audiences confront their own stories, making it not just a film to watch, but a film to feel, discuss, and return to. Comparison to Bohemian Rhapsody, 2018. Similarities. Both are centered on British music legends who dealt with fame, personal demons, and public adoration. Both follow a rise for redemption narrative arc. Include iconic songs recontextualized within the protagonist's life. Differences. Bohemian Rhapsody focuses heavily on public triumphs and band dynamics, while Better Man dives deeply into the personal psychology of a solo artist. Better Man is more introspective and stylized in its storytelling, often blurring the line between reality and imagination, e.g., Robbie's younger self as a recurring internal character. Bohemian Rhapsody is a more traditional biopic, while Better Man is a genre-bending emotional study. Verdict: Better Man offers more emotional vulnerability and artistic experimentation, making it resonate on a more introspective level, though it lacks the grand-scale, crowd-pleasing anthemic energy of Bohemian Rhapsody. Rainbow 2. Comparison to Rocketman, 2019. Similarities. Both films center on solo British pop icons, Elton John and Robbie Williams, with troubled pasts, struggles with addiction, identity, and sexuality, and reliance on therapy and introspection. Both use musical fantasy sequences as emotional expressions, not just performance highlights. Both characters interact with younger versions of themselves to symbolize trauma and growth. Differences. Rocketman is framed as a musical fantasy, with flamboyant, surreal sequences more embedded in classic Broadway style. Better Man uses more grounded and psychological visuals, employing fantasy less frequently but with more symbolic weight. Elton's story is about liberation through self-acceptance. Robbie's is about healing through self-confrontation. Verdict: Better Man is arguably more introspective and psychologically led, but slightly less theatrical. It appeals to those looking for emotional resonance over musical spectacle, while Rocketman dazzles with its unapologetic flamboyance. Microphone 3. Comparison to Elvis, 2022. Similarities. Both explore the price of stardom, emotional isolation, and the battle for artistic control. Both use stylistic editing, fast cuts, and symbolic visuals to reflect the character's inner state. Both protagonists struggle with public personas that overshadow their private selves. Differences. Elvis is told from Colonel Tom Parker's perspective, creating a mythic tragedy. Better Man is told largely through Robbie's internal dialogue, giving it a deeply personal and grounded tone. Elvis has a sweeping epic tone, while Better Man is more intimate, almost confessional in style. Verdict: Better Man trades grandeur for emotional intimacy. While Elvis is operatic and energetic, Better Man is quieter, more contemplative, and deeply human in its portrayal. Glowing Star 4. Comparison to The Greatest Showman, 2017. Both directed by Michael Gracie. Similarities. Both use music as narrative, blending performance with storytelling. Both feature outsiders seeking love and validation through spectacle. Gracie's visual flair, evident in camera movement and set design, can be seen in both. Differences. The Greatest Showman is an original musical fantasy rooted in optimism and spectacle. Better Man is a biographical drama, rooted in realism, trauma, and emotional complexity. The tones are radically different. Showman is uplifting and glossy. Better Man is haunting and reflective. Verdict: Better Man shows Grace's growth as a filmmaker, evolving from showman-style storytelling to emotionally mature, layered biographical cinema. It is more refined, grounded, and narratively daring. Multiple musical notes. 5. Does Better Man offer something new? Yes. Here's how it stands apart. Uses therapy sessions as a narrative spine, something rarely seen in musical biopics. Centers internal conflict over external events, making the story more about healing than winning. Employs the presence of a younger Robbie as a character, creating emotional symbolism that invites viewer reflection. Incorporates non-linear structure without losing coherence, adding richness and rewatch value. Rather than simply retelling events, the film asks questions about identity, trauma, worthiness, and the human cost of fame. Chart with upward trend. 6. Audience reception versus peers. Film critical focus, audience draw style. Bohemian Rhapsody performance, Queen's music mass appeal, nostalgia conventional biopic. Rocketman emotional honesty, musical style Elton John's flamboyance and drama musical fantasy. Elvis editing, direction, star power mythic scope, performance intensity hyper-stylized, dramatic. Better Man emotional healing, vulnerability intimacy, psychological exploration grounded with surreal flourishes. Conclusion. While Bohemian Rhapsody and Elvis aim to dazzle, Better Man aims to connect and reflect. It's not just a biopic, it's an emotional experience, focused more on truthful introspection than grand theatrics. White have a checkmark. Final verdict, a quietly bold entry in the musical biopic genre. In a genre often defined by chronological storytelling and dramatic career highlights, Better Man, 2024, dares to tell a more personal, fragile, and human story. It doesn't try to mythologize Robbie Williams, it attempts to understand him. And in doing so, it allows audiences to understand something about themselves. It may not be the loudest or most visually extravagant biopic of its time, but it is among the most emotionally intelligent and narratively brave, a film that invites comparison not only with its peers but with the viewer's own emotional journey. Would you like this turned into a side-by-side comparison chart or a video script for facts and review? I can also give you a closing verdict with ranking suggestions for top 5 musical biopics of the 2020s to boost engagement. The mirror motif, fragmented identity. One of the most striking recurring images in Better Man is the use of mirrors and reflections, which symbolize Robbie's fractured self-image and the duality between his public persona and private self. In multiple scenes, Robbie stares into mirrors that distort his reflection, highlighting the disconnect between who he appears to be and who he feels he is. Sometimes his younger self appears in the mirror, a direct metaphor for unfinished emotional business and unresolved childhood trauma. There's even a moment where the mirror shatters during a breakdown, visually representing the collapse of his ego and identity. Symbolic layer. Mirrors are not just props, they're emotional battlegrounds, places where Robbie confronts his insecurities, guilt, and the masks he wears for the world. Boy 2. Young Robbie, inner child as guide and ghost. The most prominent metaphor in the film is Robbie's younger self, who appears throughout the narrative, not as a flashback, but as a living presence in adult Robbie's world. Sometimes silent, sometimes accusatory, young Robbie represents the part of him still stuck in the past, carrying pain from parental abandonment, public scrutiny, and self-doubt. In therapy sessions, this younger version often sits in the room, a visual metaphor for the lingering presence of childhood trauma. In the final act, adult Robbie embraces his younger self, a symbolic act of forgiveness, showing that healing only begins when we accept our past. Deeper meaning. Young Robbie is more than a memory, he's the emotional ghost that haunts the present. His arc reflects inner reconciliation, the film's true climax. Performing Arts 3. Masks and stage lighting, the illusion of fame. Throughout Better Man, performance spaces are staged with theatrical exaggeration, spotlights, costumes, makeup, all of which function as metaphors for artifice and identity construction. Stage lighting often blinds Robbie, symbolizing how fame obscures clarity and prevents authentic self-connection. In rehearsal rooms and backstage areas, Robbie often wears figurative or literal masks, underscoring how he hides behind persona to avoid vulnerability. The contrast between onstage flamboyance and offstage isolation becomes a recurring visual motif, enhancing the theme that stardom is often a lonely facade. Interpretation. Fame is depicted not as freedom, but as a mask that suffocates the man behind it. This metaphor is central to the emotional weight of the film. 4. The therapy room, a stage for the soul. The therapy room is not just a narrative device, it's a symbolic space where the walls of reality, memory, and imagination collapse. It is depicted as timeless, often changing in size, color, or design depending on Robbie's emotional state, reflecting his mental landscape. Sometimes the room fills with fog, lights dim, or props from the past appear mid-session, visual cues for emotional breakthroughs or psychological resistance. The room acts as a kind of liminal space, a place where the inner world confronts the outer self. Metaphorical role. The therapy room is Robbie's stage of truth, a stark contrast to the performance stages where lies and bravado dominate. Thundercloud and Rain #5. Weather and natural elements, emotional forecasting. Gracie uses environmental symbolism to subtly externalize Robbie's internal emotions. Rain falls during moments of self-doubt or emotional collapse, cleansing, but cold. Sunlight often follows scenes of connection or insight, such as emotional reconciliation with his father or bonding with a partner. In one powerful scene, Robbie performs under artificial rain, while the stage lights flicker, blending performance and suffering into one potent visual metaphor. Thematic function. The weather patterns operate as non-verbal expressions of mood, helping viewers feel Robbie's emotional rhythms before he verbalizes them. Hourglass with Flowing Sand 6. Nonlinear time, memory as metaphor. The film does not unfold chronologically. Instead, Robbie's story is told through a collage of memories, dreams, and reflective moments, emphasizing that the past is never truly gone, it lives in us. Flashbacks are not transitions but emotional echoes, triggered by present-day feelings. At times, younger and older versions of Robbie exist in the same space, reinforcing the idea that he is constantly living with his younger self. Symbolism in structure. The non-linear narrative represents how trauma fragments perception of time, and how healing is not a straight line but a recursive process. Musical score 7. Music as emotional voice. Each song in the film functions as more than just a soundtrack, it's a thematic device. Feel, Come Undone, No Regrets, and Angels are used not for performance, but to express inner turmoil, hope, or breakdown. Lyrics are often matched with imagery that contrasts or deepens their meaning, such as showing isolation during upbeat refrains or vulnerability during grand crescendos. Symbolic use. Songs become extensions of Robbie's psyche, making music not just a form of art, but a language of survival and self-expression. 8. Bird imagery, desire for freedom. Subtle bird motifs, seen in tattoos, wallpapers, and stage design, represent Robbie's desire for freedom from the cages of fame, trauma, and identity. In one sequence, a bird appears behind glass as he records a song, evoking both beauty and entrapment. Birds in flight are shown as a visual metaphor for release, used sparingly but effectively in key turning points. White heavy checkmark conclusion. Symbolism as emotional language. Better Man, 2024, succeeds not just because of its script and performances, but because of its symbolic depth. Every metaphor, be it the younger self, the mirror, the mask, or the storm, exists to illuminate the emotional truth of Robbie Williams' life. It is a film that asks viewers to look beyond the surface and recognize the symbols in their own stories. This rich layering turns Better Man into more than a biopic. It becomes a psychological odyssey, a poetic therapy session, and a mirror for anyone wrestling with who they were, who they are, and who they want to become. Would you like a list of the top 10 symbolic scenes for video breakdown, or a narrated summary formatted for your facts and review YouTube channel? I can also prepare a carousel-style post for social media engagement using these visual metaphors. Position in the biopic landscape, a postmodern evolution. In terms of historical context within film culture, Better Man follows, and in many ways advances, the stylistic and emotional ambition of recent musical biopics such as Bohemian Rhapsody, 2018, Queen of Freddie Mercury. Rocket Man, 2019, Elton John. Elvis, 2022, Elvis Presley. Spencer, 2021, Princess Diana, though not musical, a deeply personal character study. Where Bohemian Rhapsody focused on concert spectacle and Rocket Man leaned into musical fantasy, Better Man shifts the biopic model inward, embracing psychological realism and therapy-driven narrative structures. Historical significance. It represents a modern evolution of the biopic genre, one that is less concerned with chronology or career milestones and more focused on emotional truth, mental health, and internal growth. This approach reflects contemporary audience preferences for authentic, unfiltered storytelling, particularly among millennials and Gen Z who demand emotional transparency and mental health awareness in popular media. Books 2. Historical accuracy, a blend of fact and interpretation. While Better Man is not a documentary, it remains grounded in real events, offering a largely faithful portrayal of Robbie Williams' life, career trajectory, and personal struggles. Yet it also employs stylistic abstraction to convey psychological experiences, making it a semi-fictionalized, emotionally subjective retelling. Real events depicted accurately. Robbie's rise to fame with Take That in the early 1990s. His departure from the band and battles with addiction. His solo career milestones, e.g., hit songs like Angels, Feel, Come Undone. Mental health breakdowns and time in rehabilitation. Struggles with identity, fame, and isolation despite success. Where the film takes liberties. The character of young Robbie is not a historical figure but a dramatic device, a symbolic inner child representing trauma and unresolved emotion. Therapy sessions are not transcriptions of real encounters but serve as narrative mechanisms to explore truth beyond literal facts. Some timelines and relationships are condensed or restructured for narrative clarity. Creative choice. This blend of realism and stylization is intentional. It places the audience inside Robbie's mind, rather than simply showing what happened from the outside. In doing so, the film achieves emotional accuracy over chronological precision, which many modern biopics strive for. Clock #3. Cultural and musical timeline, 1990s to 2010s. The film spans 3 crucial decades, 1990s to 2010s, offering a visual and emotional record of the boy band phenomenon of the early 90s, the Britpop explosion and UK music industry dynamics, the evolution of tabloid culture and celebrity obsession, The shift in public attitudes toward mental health and male vulnerability. Period details. Costuming, set design, and music production remain authentic to each era. Robbie's real-life performances, music videos, and public moments are replicated or reimagined to immerse viewers in those time periods. The evolution of media pressure, from paparazzi to social media, is subtly but effectively traced across the years. Historical contribution. This makes Better Man not just a personal biopic but also a chronicle of changing cultural values, especially how fame, masculinity, and emotional openness have evolved. Microphone 4. Legacy context. Robbie Williams in the cultural canon. By creating a film about Robbie Williams, Better Man also helps re-evaluate and solidify his place in pop music history. Once seen as a rebellious tabloid fixture, this film reframes him as a complex, emotionally driven artist whose struggles mirrored those of an entire generation. It gives overdue recognition to his musical legacy in the UK and abroad, spotlighting not just his hits but the emotional intelligence in his lyrics. His story, full of collapse and recovery, becomes a universal parable, especially in today's climate of mental health advocacy. Cultural impact. Better Man helps transition Robbie from a pop icon into a cultural figure of emotional resilience, contributing to a larger conversation about fame, identity, and healing in the 21st century. White heavy checkmark conclusion. A biopic rooted in personal and cultural history. While not a franchise entry, Better Man, 2024, plays a critical role in the evolution of musical biopics and celebrity narratives. It stands as a historically immersive depiction of the late 20th and early 21st century celebrity experience. A psychologically nuanced study of trauma, growth, and self-acceptance. A thematic continuation of films like Rocket Man, pushing the boundaries of what a musical biopic can be. Through its accurate yet stylized lens, the film honors the real Robbie Williams while also crafting a universal narrative about the cost of being seen, the pain of unresolved wounds, and the courage it takes to become a better man. Would you like this contextual breakdown formatted into a segment for your Facts and Review YouTube script, or a comparison timeline graphic for social media? I can also list the key historical milestones depicted in the film for detailed scene breakdowns. Better Man, 2024. A franchise or historical context. Expanded, scene-rich, and thematically layered. While Better Man, 2024, is not part of a cinematic franchise, it functions as a cultural biopic milestone, capturing not only the life and career of Robbie Williams but also serving as a historical reflection of shifting societal values, particularly from the 1990s to the 2010s. It contributes to the genre of musical biopics by elevating narrative techniques and prioritizing emotional and psychological realism over fame-focused spectacle. Clapperboard 1. Not a franchise, but part of a cinematic movement. Better Man follows a rising trend of introspective musical biopics, placing it alongside emotionally resonant works such as Rocket Man, Elton John, musical fantasy meets inner trauma. Bohemian Rhapsody, Freddie Mercury, performance-heavy, career arc-based. Love and Mercy, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, dual timelines to explore trauma and genius. Back to Black, 2024, Amy Winehouse, exploring artistry in the context of addiction and love. Where those films celebrate public legends, Better Man shifts the lens inward, marking a genre evolution from glorifying the icon to understanding the human being beneath the fame. In contribution to the biopic genre, it breaks away from greatest hits storytelling, using mental health and memory as storytelling structure, making the film not just a biography but a cinematic therapy session. Open Book 2. Historical accuracy, honest yet stylized retelling. While Better Man is dramatized and emotionally stylized, it faithfully captures the essence of real events, personalities, and time periods, particularly Robbie Williams' real-life milestones, such as joining Take That in 1990 at age 16, leaving the band in 1995 amid creative frustration and substance abuse, launching a solo career marked by emotional lyrics and stadium anthems, winning Brit Awards and becoming a UK icon, struggling with addiction, anxiety, and self-image even at the height of his success, reuniting with Take That briefly in the 2010s. Time period elements, accurate and immersive. Authentic costuming, leather jackets, boy band uniforms, early 2000s fashion. Realistic media portrayals, tabloid obsession, paparazzi swarm culture of late 1990s. Accurate depictions of concert venues, award shows, and recording sessions. 90s or 2000s era references, mobile phones, media style, and early internet fame pressures. Even though the structure leans on memory and internal conflict, the backdrop of real events, musical milestones, and social shifts is authentic, giving the film emotional credibility and historical immersion. 3. A psychological and cultural time capsule. What sets Better Man apart historically is how it documents the emotional cost of stardom during a time when mental health wasn't discussed, especially for men. The 1990s UK culture normalized lad culture, banter, and repression of feelings. Robbie, caught in this storm, became a poster child for emotional burnout. The film reflects how the tabloid media thrived on character assassination, mocking celebrities' breakdowns rather than humanizing them. Better Man indirectly tracks the shift in public values, from toxic celebrity culture to the modern conversation around vulnerability and healing. The movie doesn't just show history, it shows how Robbie was shaped by it, and how he, in turn, helped humanize stardom for future generations. Robbie Williams as a cultural symbol in historical context. Robbie Williams emerged during a transformative moment in British pop history. In the early 1990s, boy bands were polished, controlled, and idealized. Robbie challenged this mold with his rebellious attitude and emotional rawness. His solo music reflected deeper themes of loneliness, spirituality, addiction, and self-worth, rare in mainstream male pop at the time. His tabloid controversies, therapy admissions, and candidness made him a controversial but groundbreaking figure in reshaping how celebrities could speak about pain. Through Better Man, his life is repositioned not just as personal success, but as a reflection of shifting societal boundaries, where authenticity, mental health, and emotional openness began to challenge old norms. 5. The film as emotional architecture of the Nina Tiesto 2000s. Every set, scene, and sonic detail in Better Man helps recreate Britain's evolving cultural landscape. Take that era, 1990 to 1995 colorful, plastic, image-obsessed boyband visuals, a world of artificial happiness, mirroring the lack of control Robbie felt. Solo Rise, 1996 to 2005 darker, rawer settings, recording studios, isolated hotel rooms, drug-fueled after-parties, all designed to reflect his disillusionment and loneliness. Rehabilitation and Recovery, 2006 to 2015 muted colors, quiet therapy sessions, natural lighting, symbolizing emotional grounding and slow personal healing. This architectural symbolism builds a chronicle of emotional and cultural evolution, using visual design to represent historical transition, not just events. Globe showing Europe-Africa 6. Cultural milestones and the broader impact. Better Man contributes to the larger cultural understanding of cultural element, how the film reflects it. Fame and mental health shows how unchecked fame damages emotional stability, especially when fame starts young. Masculinity in Crisis examines toxic masculinity and emotional repression in men during the 90s and early 2000s. Celebrity culture critiques tabloid media and the fall and rise obsession surrounding male pop figures. Pop music's psychological edge brings attention to how pop songs, like Feel and Come Undone, are used to express trauma. Public redemption culture explores how redemption is marketed to the public as a narrative of comeback. In doing so, Better Man becomes not just Robbie's biography, but a study in how cultural systems affect personal identity. White heavy checkmark conclusion, a standalone story with historical weight. Though Better Man, 2024, is not a franchise entry or sequel, its value lies in its cultural and historical significance. It contributes to both film and music history by telling a real story with emotional accuracy and psychological depth, capturing the mood of Britain's cultural transition from repression to expression, reframing Robbie Williams as a symbol of vulnerability, not just celebrity, elevating the biopic genre through innovation in narrative, symbolism, and emotional authenticity. This is not just a film about a man, it's a film about a moment in time, a culture in flux, and a society slowly learning how to feel again. Budget versus production quality. Better Man was produced with an estimated budget of $110 million, making it one of the most expensive musical biopics ever. However, thanks to Australian government incentives, pro 40% producer rebates and additional state funding, the net production cost was significantly lower, likely around $65 million or less. Reddit.com. +1. Vulture.com. +1. This substantial